I thought long and hard about this speech. Now you've blown it, so I've got to make it up as I go along, but that's okay. No, in all seriousness, this is supposed to be about anti-war. Anti-war.
Mark is one. Darren is
not
two.
Anti-war.
Carnegie's Painter is
I just want to
three.
make that point.
Brenda's Krina Swartz is three.
I'm not pro.
Ramiro is four.
support
Mark
war.
R is
I'm against
five again.
But if you want to wage
Intimidator,
war,
Mark.
there ain't nobody better at than me.
Mark attack.
I know how to wage war. That's why I hate.
Yeah, I'll look at MBOT. Let me turn this guy off.
Want to fight?
Turn that guy off. MBOT. Let me get organized such that I can. So I started with this list with you guys, and then I had this list, which they don't quite match up because I left out no, I didn't. I guess I just left out the wolf was the only one. But anyway, these are the lists I came up with of stocks to look at to buy during the last week of the year or sooner. There is a biotech company, and I just can't remember the name. I want to say Northwest Bio or something like that. Maybe one of you guys follow it and you can tell me and I'll recognize it. I think that would be an interesting play, not so much because you're going to see the stock do anything miraculous to fight the shorts, the criminals. But my understanding is that company has a fully vetted, finalized deal. What do you call it? I don't know if it's a drug, a therapy maybe. Anyway, they could be bought out. That's what I like about that company. Because a company coming and buy out, what did the shorts do then? I just don't remember the name of it. I have to find out where I wrote it down. That's the only other one I'd like to see for tomorrow morning. Yeah, I don't know, Allende. That's kind of you, but I don't know if I'm this calm. Sometimes I get upset. So that might be it. NWBO. Jeff, that might be it. NWBO. I'm going to add that to this list. I don't think I'm going to be able to buy it, but I want to look at that NWBO. Let me just see where it's trading. Jeff, I think you're right. Let me just look it up and make sure. Let me look it up and make sure. Go to Yahoo. Poor Yahoo. Before that CEO took over, they were the number one in finance. Guys like me, I still go to Yahoo Finance, but somehow they lost their way. Okay, I think you're right. Okay, 73 cents, but that doesn't look like it's at the lows of the year. So that's almost about. I'm not sure that's a tax loss selling situation because it's not all the way at the lows and it's kind of mid-range. But anyway, I still like, if that's the one, let me look at the news. That might be it. Yeah, Jeff, that might be it. That one just intrigues me. Not really. Not so much. To me, that's the stock to buy. And if and when a big company buys them out, that's when you just buy it and forget it. That's how I would look at it. Let me see where it was trading. Okay. All right. I got to get a new computer. That's my number one New Year's resolution. I don't so much need a computer. I need a monitor that's powerful, matches Apple. So I'll either get that studio monitor or a new computer. Well, I'll get it done. Yeah, as Sergio, I think I first heard about it when I was listening to somebody about HNRC. He also mentioned it. But then I think I heard Ham mention it, so it kind of clicked in my head. Oh, you know. Lisa Kaufman. Lisa Kaufman. Hi, Lisa. What do you think will happen with MMTLP? Well, let me see first if I can. How do I do this? I go present. I go slides. All right, let me just see if I can do this quickly. I won't waste your time too long, Lisa. I just I'm trying to, this silly setup I have, it's so slow, but I'm trying to show you if I can do it quickly. So slow. The the dialing Apple spinning dial of death. Now it's Google taking forever. All right, here we are. Here we are. This came, let me see if I can do this. It's loading. Sorry, Lisa. I want to see if I can. When I get a better system, I am going to not have this kind of problem. Oh boy. Sorry, Lisa. All right, I have that circle again. Okay. I give up. I'll come back and just answer. Oh, I can't come back. I'm trying to go back. The circle is spinning. It won't let me do anything. Sorry, Lisa. It's I can't tell if you can see me or not because everything's frozen except for that Apple circle wheel of death. All right, there we're back. What I think is going to happen with MMTLP is I think a lot of people are waiting on the approval of that S1 or S4 that Greg McKay put out. And as soon as the SEC approves that, I think there may be a scramble for people who have MMTLP to move it into NextBridge at the transfer agent. I don't know when that'll happen. Doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon, but there's 60 days after approval to get that done. So Lisa, I think there's going to be at some point a herd mentality to rush into American stock transfer, but we're not there yet. So that's number one to be aware of. Number two, and let me just see, I won't get stuck in a stall again. All right, I'm gonna see if I can do this. I'm gonna see if I can do this. I don't know if I can. Add file from PDF. I don't know. Yeah. There's got to be a way. I've done this before. Let's go to settings. I've got to look up how to do this. There's a way to do it. Maybe it's over here on brand, banners, brand, background, add video clip. I don't know. All right, Lisa, I'm sorry. I wanted to show you what the criminals are doing in MMTLP. There's going to be a battle over, particularly at the beginning of the year, in my opinion, from people like Jim Cramer, Professor Angel, and other shills for this criminal activity to discredit MMTLP. And our campaign and the fact that there were losses. This is because there is such a huge amount of money involved. So that I think you're going to face that. In terms of a settlement, I don't think there'll be a settlement in the first 6 months of the year. I'd be surprised if there's a settlement in the first 9 months of the year. If there's anything, I think it'll be toward the end of the year. I hope I'm wrong. Now, what the accelerants are improved results at Nextbridge that get announced, and because Wall Street is paying attention that this is what we could owe. And at some point, all of your hard work, everybody on the space calls and everyone doing the phone calls, calling the people that are having their frictions with each other, but they keep moving the scrum forward. This is going to gain purchase at some point, and the wheels spinning in the mud will finally grab on to a root or some rock and maybe get into the gravel that you've laid there, and slowly, and then all of a sudden the automobile is just going to fly out of the ditch. And the awareness is just going to be hard to put back in the bottle. So those are the two accelerants as I see them. But I think you should plan on it taking until the second half for a settlement. I think Wall Street is going to try to convince everyone it's not worth anything, and they're going to try to wait you out. Remember, the good thing is you've got these big guys, and they're all men. That's why I say guys, who own big positions in the company. They're not going to give up the fight, and they're not going to leave you behind. But I don't see anything happening in 60 days or 90 days. And then finally, Lisa, I think it's important to state there is a huge push to get 2 days trading for MMTLP. That would be a disaster, absolute disaster for shareholders, for unit holders. That would play right in the hands of the shorts, and they would be dancing around our grave singing hallelujah. what you have to know, Lisa, is MMTLP isn't anything. It's nothing. Nothing. What happened is that the Oregonde project, and I studied it back when. I talked to my friends at Netherland and Sewell about it. I talked to other uh, oil and gas people about it. I raised money for it, albeit I did it. People just bought in the open market. I was not successful getting a big raise directly to John Berta and Torchlight, but that's how I met John Berta, over telephonically. And I visited with the geologist. I was in, I think, Wichita Falls, Texas, but I thought that was Kansas. Anyway, they're nearby, whatever. Maybe he was from Wichita and I was in Texas. But anyway, I spent a morning, a lunch, and an afternoon with the maps rolled out for some of the projects in Torchlight. I spent I flew down to Dallas or Houston or both at least 3 times to meet with board members, and I heard the whole pitch from large shareholders. So, Lisa, I learned Oro Grande back when it was Torchlight. I bought Torchlight. I actually lost money on Torchlight because ultimately I waited and I sold. So I didn't hold long enough to get shares of MMTLP. Then one of my friends told me, I suppose now about a year and a half ago, you really should be buying MMTLP. I said, oh, come on. I lost all that money. I'm not going to. No, you should be buying it. It was like 50 cents, 80 cents. I didn't do it. And then he kept bringing up, it was $1.50, $2. Hey, you should really look at this. So, Lisa, I ended up buying my shares primarily. I think it was all on the Thursday, but I might have bought a little bit on Wednesday. I can't remember, but I think it was on the 8th of December, and I paid too much money. If I had put this money in when my friend told me, I'd have a large position. But anyway, I did it. I think it's $7.89 a share. If that matters, I can look it up and give the exact, but it was right around that number. Essentially, $8 a share I paid for MMTLP. Now, the reason I did it was a couple of things. I like oil and gas, and as I was talking live with you guys, I convinced myself that this is a pretty good story, and I think it is. I think it's a great oil and gas story. And ironically, it's a way for all of us to be in a private placement that we normally wouldn't be in. And just imagine what the criminals would be doing to the price of NBH if it were public. FINRA would have authorized transferring the criminal position. They'd be telling us we're all pump and dumpers and nefarious, and they would be driving it down. And then Nextbridge would have a very hard time raising money because the psychology of the human being, even though they know the value is up here, the stock's trading down here. I want it down here. It's the weirdest thing, because ultimately, like what just happened with CAUD, the CEO priced the stock. He said to the world, CAUD is not worth 114 million. It's worth 18 million. That's what he did. But we'll talk about CAUD later, but I'm going to be positive on CAUD from now on. I've said my cautions. I've expressed my anger. That deal with Polar and Chandron, that whole group, that wasn't Peter Board's fault. So this financing I'm going to give him a mulligan on, because here's why. I was thinking about it. Why the heck wouldn't he have put money in himself at a higher price and gotten his buddies to do it? It might be that in the document the criminals create, this was a sting. This was a sting by someone. But anyway, it might say in the documents, hey, you're not allowed to raise money without coming to us first. It could say that. And in fact, it does have some language. I'm not a lawyer enough to understand the rights and wrongs of it. Anyway, so Lisa, I paid essentially $8 because I thought we'd get those 2 days trading, and it would have been fun to see what happens when a squeeze occurs. But more importantly, that's what my interest was. We would have evidence to show that this criminality is happening in the market, and then we could show that it's happening in the rest. But Lisa, those 2 days were taken away. December 9th and December 12th were taken away from trading. Now, at that time, it would have caught the criminals unaware. It would, you and I would have still been in a position to say, look, we have shares of MMTLP. We need the real shares of NextBridge by Wednesday. And there could have been a panic of buying. But now, if they give you 2 days trading, now, what's the rush? There's no rush. There's nothing in MMTLP. The record date, the delivery date, the X date, they all happened over a year ago. There's no trigger to force a squeeze now. There's no assets in MMTLP. There's no governance. It's just a chit that says you dropped your laundry off at the dry cleaner, your suits off at the dry cleaner and your shirts, and you forgot. I'm not blaming us, but you forgot to pick it up for a year. You hope your chit is still good when you go back in. That's all it is. It's a chit. So if we were to get 2 days trading, the criminals wouldn't bid it up. They would just offer maybe a penny, let it run up to 5 cents, drive it back down. And then if you didn't sell in the 2 days, they say, hey, at the seal, it's over. It'd be like Lady Macbeth. Out, damn spot. They just say it's gone. Wash my hands of it. So anyway, Lisa, I don't expect 2 days of trading. And if you get 2 days of trading, it'll be bad news, because that will be the ultimate. Is that a swear word? It'll be the ultimate screw job, and then we're left holding nothing. My advice, Lisa, which I can't give you specific financial advice, of course. I think everyone should move their MMTLP to AST, so at least you have ownership of what looks to be a dynamic oil and gas company. If there's a settlement, I think it'll have a couple of parts to it. One will be that there'll be some sort of cash dividend. You'll get it, I think, if you're in AST. I also think they may give some people the choice to reverse their decision, because there's going to be a scramble for shares. I'll try to do a video. I did it a year ago, but to me, you've got a lot of players. You got the criminals and you got NextBridge. NextBridge can't raise, in my judgment, the NextBridge is going to have a hard time raising capital or being sold as long as the attorneys for the criminals and the complacent, the coalition of the co-conspirators, the attorneys for them are going to, I believe, would put a litigation pending on the assets of Nexbridge. In real estate, I think it's called Liz Pendens. Just a fancy word for saying you can't do nothing until we resolve our issues. So you got the criminals, you got Nexbridge. They have a common interest. The criminals want to end this without going to jail. The Nexbridge wants to get out of this limbo, raise capital to become one of the most dynamic, exciting oil and gas companies in North America. Well, what's the answer in between? I've heard that the criminals counterfeited between 500 million and 1 billion shares of, I mean, ultimately it was Torchlight, MMTLP, and MMAT, but it all adds up. I don't know the number, but let's say it's 500 million shares that don't exist, that are sitting there. Well, Nexbridge could issue shares. They could issue shares. Why would they do that? They need that. They'll get the money. They'll solve this. That's one. Two, they can issue shares at a high price. Why? They've got a buyer who doesn't want to go to jail, and broker dealers who don't want the secret out, and prime brokers who want to continue their stealing. Perfect setup. You've got a buyer whose demand for shares is inelastic as it relates to price. They'll pay anything. Just, I don't want to go to jail. Get me out of this. They will pay any price, bear any burden. I forgot the rest of the speech. So the Nexbridge side, they need capital. They want to expand. They could buy other companies. They could pay dividends. So the clear answer is, and I said this right at the beginning, but lawyers take a long time. Well, let's look at this. I went to Harvard. I deserve a lot of money. And hey, that doesn't make sense to me. And therefore, because it's not in my brain, it can't exist. Lawyers function with the 5% of their brain that humans have. And they figure their 5% is better than anybody else's. So anyway, it's taken over a year for lawyers on both sides to be familiar with the situ. And the situ is so blindingly obvious. Nexbridge needs to issue shares. Needs to, that's the wrong word. I'm sure they would want to, but they should do it at 1,000, 1,100 a share, 1,200. And the criminals have to get out from under their criminality. They don't want to go to jail. Now, they would love it if you would set up 2 days trading, because then they get away with it without any of this. And it would be enormous payday to the people who help the criminals solve their problem. Enormous. Let's just use a number, Lisa. 500 million shares times, I don't know. Let's go really low. Let's just use a low number, $100 a share. And because I'm such a Neanderthal now with my arithmetic, I'll just type it in. 500 million shares times 100. That's $50 billion. But what number I think it should be? I think it should be $1,100 or more. Let's just pick a number in between. Let's say 750. Christopher Hitchens would say, never split the difference. I'm not interested in meeting in the middle. All right, times 750. That's $375 billion. So, Lisa, there's a lot of baksheesh being paid to people to come in, disrupt our calls, publish fake articles, get on TV, go to Congress. It's a huge loss they're facing. But anyway, Lisa, I think the solution ultimately will be that NextBridge has to expand its authorized shares. The criminals have to agree to pay a huge price, and there'll be a cash dividend. They've got to carve out enough money to make the lawyers richer than Peter Angelos, because you know how important lawyers are. I'm just a dweeb. A year and a half ago, I had the solution, but all these high-priced lawyers will now have the solution that they deserve to get paid $1 billion or $2 or $3 or $4 for. But anyway, the lawyers have to be paid. It's just a fact of life. And then the criminals will walk free. There'll be no disclosure. We'll have to sign. There'll be no disclosure of the crime. We'll all agree that nobody did anything wrong, but we won't do it again. But what'll be in it for you, Lisa, if you're in at AST, let me just use my number. You guys are going to say, oh, it's too high. Well, you know what? I'd rather the criminals hear a high number than a low number. I can make a plausible argument for $1,150 a share being the number. And the longer that we go and the more proving up of the reserves and the higher the price of oil and the more reserves move from 3 or 4p to 1p or 2p or not to p, you're going to see that value per share going up. And remember, we deserve our payout based on 165 million shares outstanding, not the expanded amount. So let me use 1150. I think the lawyers will either get $50 or $100. We will get either $50 or $100 in a cash dividend, and then 1,000 can go to NextBridge to buy new shares. And the shares that are in NextBridge, by definition, at least out of the gate, are worth 1,000 a share. Now, what would be the mechanics of that deal? The cash distribution would go to you or me at AST. And I expect that to be $50, $100. I think the lawyers should take 50 and we should get 100 as our cash distribution. But hey, there's only one group of people with a higher value of themselves than the criminals. It's the lawyers. All right, hang on. Hello? Are you driving? Well, no, I didn't know I had to call you. I'm live if you want to go on, but all right, relax, everyone. Everybody's in a bad mood. All right, hang on. I got to get the speaker. I had the speaker going for you, but I guess it, hang on, relax. All right, guys, the voice is here. We'll get them on. Hang on.
Battery 40%.
Hang on.
Connected to Bill's iPhone.
I know. All right, what? All right, Ham, you got it.
You ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Again, this is my opinion, not for investment advice, blah, blah, blah. If the SEC is listening, fuck you. Anyway, how'd you know I was in a bad mood? That's the funny thing.
I can tell your voice. I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. You have not bought Richard Hoffman a gift for tomorrow's birthday. That's what it is.
Oh, I forgot about it. I didn't even buy my brother. My brother is December 31st. I'm Christmas and my brother's December 31st. So I don't know what
Richard Hoffman is tomorrow.
He's wedged in between us. Anyway, Richard, I'm sorry, but I will get you a gift when I sell some stock and make a lot of money. Then I'll be able to. I'll get you a toupee too. You don't have a lot of grass on that turf either.
It's not very nice.
Anyway,
He's got more than you do.
Yeah, he does, but that's okay. I got that Kojak look for anybody who's old enough. Anyway, yes, I'm in a pissed off mood. I am sick of watching the fraud and the SEC do nothing. I just, for example, today was a clear example of manipulation and finger motion, documented again. The stock was trading up, normal. Then all of a sudden, it's nothing but red bars, sell, sell, sell. I put up the bar chart. You can actually see they sold 130,000 shares at the market, trying to knock it down to get it down to where it is now at 408. Why do you sit there and watch it all day and waste our time? Right? This is going to play out on the right side for us no matter what. And they just continue to manipulate to just get people to panic. It's remarkable that they do it. And each day they do it, in my eyes, they belong another 10 years in jail. Because they're completely just trying to rob people. It's just amazing. And you can watch it all day long. I watched it in Wolf, forgot the 3-something. They knock it down to 278, then they come back and scoop. This is a technique done by short sellers. The stock opens a little higher, they drive it down as fast as they can, and then they try to come back and scoop it up. That's a short trying to cover. All right, that's what they're trying to do in finger, but they're deathly afraid because they know there are zero sellers. Everyone's so educated, they're in a complete panic. So with these attempts to drive it down from 436 down to 405, and then all of a sudden it stops. That's them trying to say, okay, we got to try to buy some back, but they can't. They don't even know what to do anymore. Keep selling it lower, it's just going to get worse. The clock is ticking. We have them trapped. I promise you we're going to get some sort of law enforcement shortly here. All right? I'm telling you that they're coming. I can't tell you what they're doing behind the scenes because I don't know either. But I answered all their questions. And if any of the big mouths want to step up, I'll be glad to take them to them. All right? So that's number one. What you see in, for example, that there's a Chinese stock, I don't know, ZJX, maybe I can't remember what the symbol is.
CJYL?
Whatever it is, yeah. It popped up big to $315. A mutual friend.
It's 188 now.
Yeah, he sold 1,000 shares up near the high. He made himself over $100,000 on 1,000 shares. And I believe he just put it back recently. So I'm watching it. I'm not involved. I'm just watching it. Because if that stock stays where it is right now, 185, I'm not sure where it is.
188.
Anyone who's short the stock on the close is going to run to panic. And the guys and the people that are long the stock, I'm told, own the whole float. So let's see what happens. It's interesting. Watch it, learn how they trade, think of the mentality. But if you're short that stock,
that's Zebra, John Yellow, Ledbetter.
I don't think, yeah, whatever.
ZJYL.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway, near the close, the longer it doesn't go down, the more that anybody short's going to panic and try to cover. You know, they can sit there. I sold it at 250. Yeah, go buy, try to cover it back. You'll be paying 300 for it. So it's a deadly game. It's something that you should watch, learn, and see the mentality of short selling. There was a guy the other day who sold that stock short at $56, got bought back in at 3-something, and he went broke. It was on Twitter. He put it up there. It's all over the place. That's the type of stuff that happens. All right. The SEC allows these creations to happen. And everyone sits there and says, well, I wish I had it. Yeah, well, so do I. But you can't. That's the way it is. I can't afford to buy a $200 stock. You know, again, it's a lot of money to risk. Either way, it's a lot of money to short it, to buy it. I mean, that's just insane what's going on. But that's what happens. All right. So, again, that's what the information on that. Finger motion, again, I just gave you the details of the naked short today. Got to 436. And they turned around and sold, 200,000, whatever it is, 180,000 at the market, trying to mark it down. Just look at the barcodes. I put it up there. Just learn. You can see the pattern. It's the same stupid pattern as Richard says. All right. That's what he should put on his cake. It's the same pattern. That's what he should put on his birthday cake. You have any questions, William?
He could start a line of toupees that's the brand name. No, let me look at questions. I was not paying
Listen,
attention.
people, everyone, I have someone that's helping me out. He came from Busy Brands, and he's helping me out making all these slide presentations for the truck. We're gonna wait for the new year and get the truck back out there. But someone put the idea. I forgot what it was. I did so many, I can't remember what they are anymore. And there's just so many ideas. But we'll get the best of. Elon Musk, you can't sell a house, is great. The other one where people, whoever he who sells what isn't his and must buy it back or go to prison. Hold on one second.
All right, we're holding. We are holding. We are tired of holding. Or he hung
Call
up.
ended.
He hung up. He'll call back. Oh,
Call through.
it's all right.
I left the house and took my wife's purse. Now I'm really in trouble.
You're hanging out with those two gay guys too long.
I wish you would leave it right.
Are you wearing high
Leave me
heels?
alone. Leave me alone.
You're wearing high heels?
Anyway, I would be an ugly woman, trust me.
Oh, I don't know. They'll see through to your good heart.
They'll see my big hands and say, "Oh my God." I'll be like the girl from Seinfeld with the big hands crushing the lobsters. That would be me. Anyway, people, if you can, am I live?
Yeah, you're live.
If you can retweet those photos, the MMTLP people are breaking the door down. If you know a representative or senator, please help them out, get another signature. Charlie Gasparino is a total scumbag jumping in on that fight. People been locked up for over a year. Who cheers for security fraud? You can hate the people in the stock. I could give a rat's ass. But when people are getting ripped off and been locked up for over a year, this is just unbelievable what's going on. And you know what? Let's support them if you can. So just retweet. You don't have to do anything. Call the SEC, make a phone call. They won't fight you. Lord knows they don't even know what the hell they're doing. All right, every day they catch a fraud. We showed them $27 trillion in frauds, $9 billion a day, and they don't even look. Gary Gensler walked into our truck. If he didn't pick up his head, he would have walked right into the stupid thing. Give us a break already. They all think we're idiots. Again, we'll figure it out. I have my phone calls, and we're working on the broker-dealer to take control of our own destiny. We're working on that also. And after the new year, if this COVID thing shuts down, I'll fly out to South Korea and go sit down and talk with those people about building a venture exchange. I think they really need to hear it from us on how bad the criminals are. All right. And these banks and everyone that's allowing this to go on. I've been speaking with law enforcement about going after, forget the crooks. Let Lynn and all these guys do what they want to do. Let's focus and go get the back office people, the compliance people, the stock loan people at the brokerage firms, and lock them all up. Watch how fast it shuts down when you drag the people out of Goldman or Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan, the stock loan people, or the people that E-Trade that are not doing the buy-ins, who let these shares exist without ever being delivered. We'll go after them, and we're going after them criminals. That's the way to go. We don't need to chase down the Kramers and those guys. Once the shit hits the fan, they'll be attacked by the brokerage firms because they're going to hang them all. Because they don't want to go to jail. They're going to give up the bad guys. We'll let them do the dirty work for everybody. And that's the way I'm focused on it. And that's why we need Finger Motion to come out and do a special dividend because once you do the dividend, you get a snapshot of your holders in time. And once you get that, it's very easy to show law enforcement what's happening here, just like GTI has done.
Yeah.
And just let you know, the people in GTII, the guy wrote to me today, well, GTI is not your number one pick anymore. I said, you don't listen to the phone calls. I say it every day. Finger motion looks like it's ready to go. I don't decide on who goes or what goes first. The marketplace will determine that. And to me, finger motion looks like it's ready to explode. All right. Once it does, GTI will follow along. Once finger motion really explodes, we can then sell out finger motion and come back to GTI with a boatload of fresh cash and scoop up the shares if they choose to hold it down. I don't believe this. I believe the shorts will be, I think that if finger motion crosses 10, GTI will be somewhere between $2 and $3, something like that. Because it's going to tail along because everybody knows what we're going to do. I give you the blueprint. If we were in a battle, we're telling you we're coming. What more do you want me to say? So please stop asking me the same stupid question. That is the stupidest question. And it's people ask me that every day. How high they go, I have no problem discussing that. But I told you the blueprint. If GTI takes off today, GTI will be number one. Right now, finger motion is. All right, stocks can take a period of time off like Wolf did, and all of a sudden Wolf is now a darling. It was in the dirt 2 weeks ago at $1, and now it's all of a sudden it's a darling. Everybody's going for it. It's trading 50 million shares a day. That's what happens. It turns on a dime. We don't control this. I don't control that. I wish I did, but I don't. Go ahead, William. Any questions?
Well, I'm looking. Did you ever follow NWBO?
I know all about it.
What do you think of it?
What do I think about it? It's got 1 billion shares outstanding now. If they get the cure for cancer, your stock will go to $10. That's what's that?
Yeah, so it's not a trade. It's not a trade. Okay, but
you have to hold on to it. It's not a trade.
It might be a
I
buyout
don't know
by a
what
big
it is
company.
if they have their data, whatever it is that the brain cancer, if it's picking up momentum, you could probably trade it, buy it at 80 cents, sell it at $1.20. I don't know. I don't look at it that way.
I know it'd be dead money. You'd buy it and it's dead money. All right, you talked about GTII, so I'm not going to ask that.
I gave you the blueprint. If we're robbing a bank, I just gave you the blueprint. What else do you want me to tell you?
All right, so here's an interesting twist. If Finger were to run, what would be the highest price you would roll into GTII for?
I just
That's
gave
tough.
you the numbers. I think $2 or $3. Then it becomes risky after that.
Okay, that's a good answer.
That's what happened to us last time. The other one took off on us, right?
Yeah.
And both of them went at the same time. We were all looking around like, how do we take advantage of this? Do we sell this one? Do we buy that one? But they both went to $9 and $10.
This observation is spot on. Wow, I wish I had ZJYL. But I want to point something out, and maybe you can talk about GDC. But ZJYL soared, and then it came all the way down to like 88, and now it's back up again.
It was right there. Yeah, again, we don't know when they're going to go. I don't know. I don't know all these names. I don't chase all these names.
I know.
It's nice to look at them, okay, and observe and learn how to trade. That's what I'm trying to teach you. Each stock has a pattern, and it's basically the same patterns on a short squeeze. They squeezed up and went to 300. The shorts came in trying to knock it down. They knocked it below 200. Now, if you sold it at 250, would you be trying to cover it at 200? You bet your ass. 1,000 shares, you make 50 grand, right?
Right.
So the people that are playing this thing, by the end of the day, they don't want to go home short because guess what? They don't know what tomorrow brings in that name. No one knows. I have no idea.
So Busy Brands said hello to me, not to you.
Listen, I told you, Busy Brands is my drinking, going out partner. That's my guy. So again, he knows He knows where to go. He knows where. I told him when this works, I'm going to get him a Cadillac. I'm going to buy him a Cadillac. I told him. One ugly one.
I watched a video. I know you sold your car for a profit, bought another one, sold it at a
I
profit.
did it 3 times with Carvana.
I know, but apparently CarMax is in trouble now. They have huge inventory, overpriced cars. You can probably get a Cadillac for him in 6
no,
months.
I'm getting him a specialized Cadillac. Don't worry about that.
One where he can talk to himself and his wife doesn't
Yeah,
have to
that's
listen.
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
Let's see. Everybody in my house knows your name. You are a household name for his house. Thank you, Cognipod. I'm a household name in one house in the world.
Listen, I want to disappear into the woodwork. I'm tired of doing this. I come out, some people say to me, I tweet too much. I'm just trying to spread the word. That's all I'm trying to do. Do you think I'm watching a football game and I'm sitting there at night retweeting photos to coming up with a photo? I'm trying to educate everybody as fast as I can. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to annoy you. You don't have to follow me. I just trying to say, I have very few things that I follow in life, and here is one. And what do I do? How do I keep the momentum going? Keep educating people. I'm not saying anything that's not true. It's all right here. Everyone's being counterfeited. If you think you're smart enough to go out trade people in the equity markets and live with these cannibals who can attack at any time, and they do attack, okay, good luck trying to make money doing it. You're going to win 5 times and you're going to make money. This is easy. But the 5 times you lose, you're going to lose 3 times the amount that you made. That's just the way it is.
Ham, I was talking with a gentleman who listens here, and I think he's spoken to you. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't want to give his name, but he has done a lot of companies, and he was telling me about a telecommunications company that he had that was public. And it was doing well. It was years ago, but the criminals came to him with a contract to raise money. He walked away from it. But what stuck in my mind is they said, there's nothing wrong with this. This is standard boilerplate language. All over-the-counter companies sign this when they raise money. This is so pervasive. It's sickening. Anyway.
They pay the best lawyers in the world to write these contracts. The Kramers walk in and say, hey, this contract is from Gibson Dunn.
Right.
Don't worry about it. It's all protected, SEC approved. We'll give you the $100,000 note, and they steal $5-10 million to destroy your company. There you go, whatever number it is.
So TK16 is saying that Gasbag has tweeted that he's going to have a civil conversation. If you have to tweet, that, it's not going to be civil. With Mark Bazile about MMTLP too. Listen.
Stop trying to convince people or drag anybody. You don't need anybody on your team.
Right.
You have us all here. Gasparino is not adding anything that's going to help you out. So give up on that already. I don't know why you guys are talking about that. Your mission, anyone's mission, is the regulators need to step in here. Law enforcement needs to step in here. That's it. We don't need Charlie Gasparino.
That's right.
He's a washed up Wall Street Journal reporter. He's been washed up for years.
I love it. That's a great answer.
Don't waste your time.
And the thing is, we have the truth. We have the truth.
How does he not want to? Why do you need to convince somebody? It'll take you 8 minutes to read the MMTLP thing. What's so hard? Right? What is so hard? Just go read that. It's right there. You have to educate them. You're a Wall Street Journal reporter. You want to report on it? Go study it yourself. What are you kidding me? People stop kissing his ass. Get out of here. Worry about yourself. You guys, look how far everyone's gotten. MMTLP doing their own thing. Anna, you got everybody in Washington signing up for you to help you out. You need Charlie Gasparino? Get out of here. I never needed anybody. I never reached out and begged anybody all day. I begged Elon Musk And all I got out of him is this quote. That was it. That was it. The richest man in the world can end this in 2 minutes if he put energy into it for an hour. All you have to do is go on TV and tell
Well, you
everybody.
know who could end it is the California Teachers Retirement Plan.
Yes, those are the people you should be reaching out to. But you're going to sit there and they're going to say, well, we don't own an MMTLP. That's the only fight you're going to have with them.
Steve Petchke suggests that you leave the purse in the car if you go out shopping or playing pickleball.
This is what I've done. It's raining in New York. I went to the pickleball court. There's no one here. I'm out here now with the roller. I'm going to push the water off and I'm going to practice serving for an hour. I'm just going to hit serves. I'm not going to run and I'm going to practice serving. That's my mentality. I do the same thing. That's the only way to get better is to practice. That's
I watched about 23 minutes summary of Djokovic playing Alcaraz in Saudi Arabia. And my gosh, we're going to have a great season. Djokovic, I won't say who won or lost, went to 3 sets. It was amazing. You should. That's what I'd like to do. If you're going to Florida, I'd like to go to the Miami Open and watch the Joker.
Well, that's again, practice makes perfect. Everyone knows that. People don't like to practice, so that's why they never get better. So in the equity markets, I studied this thing for a long time. I sucked in the beginning. I shit my pants every time I made a trade. I was a nervous wreck. Now I have no fear. I know what to do. I know the signs. I know when they're trying to scare me out. I know when they're trying to manipulate, and I try to trade around the manipulation, which is what I'm good at.
Do you think the volume is down in the market? This gentleman is asking, when will the volume come back? It seems like all the indexes are trading at half volume right now. I don't know.
I don't follow it. I couldn't answer that. I only study a few stocks. I hear names, Listen, when I repeat a name to you, I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm telling you, do your homework on it. That's a trading desk. When you work on a trading desk, William, I worked with 50 people on a trading desk. I did not cover technology stocks. My friend did. So when they felt that something was going on, they would yell out, hey, Apple, there's real smart buying around there. The earnings are due, people are buying calls, and he would tell us. And we can relay that to our hedge fund clients, whoever we have that I was covering at the time. You can't follow all these names. So what I do is I shout out an idea. That's the way I was taught. You can't play them all. I'm not Fidelity. I don't have enough money to play every stock in the world. But, it's nice to yell it because I want you to yell back and say, hey, this is what I hear on this one. This is what I hear on that one. It only helps everybody. Communication.
Well,
Twitter has been a great source of communication between retail investors. I don't know why everybody's so nervous about it. Say whatever you want to say. Who cares?
I had a great.
You can tell me to buy it.
At one firm I worked at, great CEO, John Goldsmith. He was great. He always figured the best way to get everybody working together, get together. But we had the squawk box, and it would come out across the squawk box what people were trading.
That's what they say. I got, I had this many bonds to buy or this, whatever it was. Or they call us up from the CBOE. Hey, we got a huge buying interest in Campbell Soup or whatever it was at the time. And we would all understand the floor broker was giving us a look. That's what it's about, getting eyeballs, seeing things.
But everything's computerized now. It's like.
Well, I'm not saying, but you can see things happening, the trades. You can see what's going on. But that's what I specialize in. And that's what I'm trying to teach you. That's it. There's nothing else I can say. If you guys make money, I'm happy for you. That's all. But teach yourself. We're not going to be here forever. Teach yourself. I'm giving you as many trading tips that I learned working on a trading desk with the smartest people on the street. Unfortunately, I got stuck in trying to become a crime stopper, and it's like unbelievable how hard it's been.
Mohammed wants to know, how bad is the naked short in Wolf? The legal short is 25%.
Oh God, it's got to be huge. Listen, I met the people from Wolf, and they paid off Yorkville. That's who the short seller is there. Go read about those criminals. I don't have time to chase those guys.
That guy, is that where Ari Rubenstein worked?
I forgot the name. I don't remember.
Anyway, Oscar thinks you should get a pink Mary Kay Cadillac for Busy.
I thought about it, but that's too nice to him. I
And
wanna make
leave
it
the
ugly.
purse in the front seat.
I want to make it so it's so ugly that every time he gets into it, he gets sick and say, "How did they give me this thing?"
Quijon Ben is taking a break since August. I think that's great. Take a break. You don't have to win in each stock. You don't have to be involved every single day. And it is a lot about mental fortitude.
All we ask is if you're around, if you want to help out, spread the word about naked short selling. That's all you have to do. There's power in numbers. That's all it is. Protect your family, your friends. Tell them to stop. Don't do it. And they'll come back and say, "Oh, I bought 10,000 shares of the stock at $1. It's 80 cents. So I'm going to sell it. Oh, I only lost 2,000." Then you try it again. You lose 3,000. That's how they get you.
This is an interesting question because, frankly, I don't know if it would be a 1099 or a K1 or nothing at all. I think the answer is you pay your taxes when you sell it. But I'll ask you, is the GTII dividend a taxable event, which the brokers need to resolve before the end of the year? But is it a
good question? It's a good question. I think it's when you sell it.
I think it's a zero cost basis, and when you
Right,
sell it,
zero
you
cost
pay your
basis,
tax.
and when you sell it, right?
That's what I think. But
Otherwise, who would want to get a taxable dividend? I wouldn't take it. If we gave it out when it was $1 and the stock is now 40 cents, you're going to owe $1. Who would want it? You can't. That would be impossible.
yeah, I think that's right. A lot of questions on MMTLP, but you've already answered that.
Listen, MMTLP, everyone who's here, just retweet the political people. Get that number up to 100. That's all you have to do. Keep pounding anybody in your district, anybody you know, someone knows somebody, get them to sign it. That's it. There's nothing else you can do. You can't trade it. You can't invest in it. All you can do is contact political people and get them to sign that thing. That's it.
One guy is mentioning that you
But let me
mentioned.
just stop you for a second, William. Look at the traction MMTLP has got since it went on Charlie Payne and they got all those signatures. The game has changed, right? I spoke with John Berta today, and I told him I'm going to introduce him to the Secret Service next week. Then he said he's got invited to go back on Charlie Payne.
I bet he's paying his taxes this week. Just kidding.
I'm just saying, so that's how the game works. That's it. We keep helping each other out. That's it.
Anyway, you mentioned a broker dealer yesterday. This guy's wondering you didn't give the name. Of course, I don't think you should give the name.
No, I can't give you the name.
You can't give the name.
I don't have control of it. I don't, the guy, you got to remember when you do what we want to get done is we want to become the kamikazes of the brokerage industry. Once we decide and we take over a broker dealer and we decide that there'll be no settlement failures at our firm, Wall Street's going to hate us. All right. We're going to have a bullseye on our back because when E-Trade fails to deliver to us, we're going to buy them in. We're going to create headaches all day long. And that will drive them all nuts. Because we're going to demand that we're going to make them get paperwork. They got to go chase down the short stand for the money. They have a big headache coming.
All night long.
You understand that, William?
I understand it.
So that's the game plan.
Once you keep talking about the same pattern over and over again, even an idiot like myself can get it.
That's why I keep saying it, because I want to make sure that every idiot understands it, William.
I figure I need to hear it 500 times and I'll get it right.
You have confirmed as the king of the idiots, you got it.
Yeah. Whew. It's
ahead.
finally
Anything else?
it's finally sinking in. No, there's no other questions really.
Well, listen, I'm going to walk over to the pickleball court by myself. I'm going to hit 1,000 balls in the drizzle, and I'll come home and that's it. I'll get back to work. That's what I'm going to do. And if you don't think I'm here, here's a ball. You can hear me hit it. There you go. I hit it already. I'm ready to go.
Go
Anyway,
up to the
William,
wall and write KYP and think about her when you're hitting the ball.
I will. I'm ready for it. Anyway, listen, let me
All right.
go and I'll speak to you later. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye. He likes
Call
pickle.
ended.
He likes pickleball more than you guys. So anyway, just to finish up for Ms. Kaufman on MMTLP, I think the resolution at the end of the day is going to be quite profitable, but I don't expect anything in the next 90 days. How's that? And I do think, although many people have disagreed with me, I do think you, one, would be well advised to move out of MMTLP. Why? Because you can control that. It's real. All right. Let's talk about CAUD quickly because Mark's brought it up. Let me go back up to Mark. Mark. There's Mark. He had a quote where, oh, here, he throws me in with Arca and Ace. Well, that's nice company. Arca and Ace is very nice company. And of course, there's Avid and there's Richard Kaufman with Big JR. There's Busy Brands, Space Calls. And there's the president's press conferences. Always delightful. All right, so on CAUD, it's up 21 cents at 153. So I have a couple of observations. One, whenever you have a sign of anxiety or even panic maybe, or being upset, that's usually a signal of the bottom of the price of the stock. And maybe I was that indicator the other day. But I do still put the caution out. We're not out of the woods yet with CAUD because the board needs to recognize that what happened to CAUD and Aubrey SPAC was a sting. It was a setup. Somebody in there is not good. But I want to focus on the positives. And I'll try to answer quickly for whichever wiseacre said, thanks for the short answers. But I want to stick on the positives of CAUD. Number one, they needed the money. Number two, perhaps when Peter Boards looked at the situation, said, look, I'll put up the money myself. Maybe there's a contract in that disastrous financing with the Polar Chandron group. So maybe he didn't have a choice but to do it. And those jerks, the Brownstone people, I'm sure they're nice jerks, but they make money on the Aubrey SPAC. They get paid out $2 million or something, or maybe it was Chandron. I forget who gets the half of the money that was raised, one or the other. And now they own a big piece of the rock. And when it comes time for money that they screwed up, they had a year to roll it out better than this. But anyway, when it comes time, we want the low in the stock. We want the lowest price. Anyway, bully for them. They got the lowest price and they got a nice warrant. Wouldn't have been nice if it had been offered to us? We could have done it. Anyway, point being on my point number two is I'm going to give Peter Board is a mulligan on that, even though I was upset yesterday and the other day. I was upset when the financing was announced. I haven't gotten over my upsettedness, but I'm going to give him a mulligan because I think he might have been trapped by the contract and had very little to do. They needed money. That's how the criminals left the company. So we'll give a mulligan on that. But the good point is they raised the money. So now they hit the low. That was the capitulation. Maybe Peter Boards was the capitulation, and I was the contraindication because I was upset. But the company has snapped back very nicely. It's up 21 cents at 153 on 447,000 shares. All right. The third thing I want to say that's positive on CAUD, I'm hearing there'll be 2 announcements coming. Maybe next week. I don't know what they are. I have no idea what they are. Number 3, I'll look for right now. Number 4, insiders purchase stock, and it might be announced. Let me look. No, I don't see it, but I think that'll come out that insiders bought. The 5th thing, and I'll leave it here, is I'm impressed, very much impressed with what Peter Boards is doing in terms of putting this collective audience advisory group together and how hard he's hitting the hustings, putting the name out and telling the story. And I think that'll only accelerate next year. So those are my 5 good reasons for CAUD. At some point, this stock is going to cause the criminals to have to cover their positions. And I'd say that's over the exercise price of those warrants. But if it gets there, it could go. So I moved to sort of a hold, like don't get all excited about buying it. But if you already bought it, this is a nice trade. I'm still cautious in terms of we got to make sure the next step is in the right direction. But it looks like maybe they're doing it the right way. Maybe they just did this tranche here, and the next tranche they'll do slightly higher, and the next one higher. And they'll get there. All right, that's CAUD. Where are you finding this 2 more insider buys? It's not on, I don't know where to look. I look on the SEC page and I don't see that 2 more insider buys. Let me look. Yeah, I don't see it, but that's great. More insider buying is great. I don't know where you're finding it, but that's awesome. I agree with that. Hoboken Sal, I agree with that. He hung up pretty quickly. Well, Linarez, I know that he, or Liners, I don't know, Liners. I know that he has an investor group that said they were going to sell 1 million shares of Wolf. Said they were going to sell 1 million shares of Wolf at 3, and then they were going to buy Finger. I don't know if that helps your question. Okay. I printed out the default judgment. Yahoo Finance. All right. I should have known that. I always look on SEC. That's pretty slow. All right. That's great. Well, let's do it right now. Let's find out. Let's do it right now. Yahoo Finance. Man of vision. A man of vision and 81 million votes. 81 million votes. 81 million plus 73 million is something like 154 million. Well, let's look at that next. All right, where do you find insider buy holders? Maybe under holders. Yeah, let's see under holders. Polar Management. They only have 250,000 shares, but they did, and Mitora Capital, but they destroy the company. Anyway, you know, everything I say here is my opinion, my judgment. Could be wrong. I don't see where to find it. Let me see. Maybe it's a news story. Oh, insider transactions. I see it. Peter Boards bought $25,000 worth. It says value. I assume that's the dollar amount, not the share amount. No, maybe it's the shares. So he bought 24,800. Brent bought another 90,000 shares. Dennis Duncan bought 24,800. Brent bought 385 previously. And Aubrey Ventures got stock, and Jeffrey Tierman got stock out of the deal. Somebody in there was working with the sting. I don't know who. But make no mistake, this was a pre-planned sting on us. All right, I just want to look. Okay, so according to Statista, doesn't say. It does not stay. I guess this is hidden information now. We don't know it. We can't know it. Can't know the total. Okay. We can know the percentage. We just can't know the total. All right. So they say in 2020, there were 168 million registered voters in the United States. And then Statista says, no, census says 66% voted. So there were 100. Let's go back to that. Got to get a piece of paper. There are 168 million. According to Statista, there were 168 million registered voters in 2020, 168 million. Also, according to them, no, the census government, the census.gov, 66.8%. No, let's go to this turnout. it's wrong. 66.7% of those voters turned out. So I got to do the arithmetic. 168. This is all according to Statista, 0.667. So 112 million people voted in the presidential election, according to Statista, 112 million. I can already see a problem here. But let's see. 2020 presidential election results. According to CNN, Joe Biden got 81,284,000 votes, and Donald Trump got 74 million. So if we add 81.3 to 74.2, I can already see a problem here. 81.3 plus 74.2 equals 155 million people voted. But Statista says
Ultram.
112 million did if you do the arithmetic. Relax, where's my phone? All right.
Ultram. And
Hello? Yeah. You had a thought? All right, hang on. We can't live without your every thought. You're
I'm
on.
hitting the ball. I'm hitting the ball, and I just wanted to let everybody know that I have a group of friends, hedge funds, money managers that own over 3 million shares of Wolf, around $1.15. And they said they'd be making sales in Wolf, and they will start buying Finger. I don't know what price they wanted to get out. I was trying to get them out yesterday at 3, and they determined that the stock looks like it's going higher. So that is a bunch of whales coming in to buy Finger. All right, they own some, and I gave them a winner, and that's how Wall Street works. When I give someone a winner, the players will follow us to someplace else. So thanks to my hard work, we will have probably, I wouldn't say 3 million, we'll probably have 1 million, 1.5 million shares to buy once they get out of that position. So there is support coming, and these days of this drifting up and down will come to an end. I can't guarantee it, but that's what I was told.
Awesome.
Right. Okay, I was sitting here thinking about it, and where is the stock right now? Because I don't have
Wolf or Finger?
Finger.
It's on the.
I think you'll start seeing bids come in like 2,000, 3,000, 2,000, 3. This is the way they acquire big positions. They never show. Big players never show their cards. They don't want to sit here and put up, scare people and try to not get any stock. They want to buy the stock. So this is the way they do it. They buy it in small lots all day. And before you turn around, they got 50, 30, 40,000 shares. And that's how they do it. In a week's time, they can have 200,000, 300,000. That's how big boys come in.
Finger is 4.08, 408 to 410, 100 by 500, 400,000 shares traded.
Yeah. It's amazing. As soon as you get some buying in the stock, the selling picks up and the buying picks up. All right. So again, this morning they do these crosses pre-market. It's the same pattern. I keep saying it. I'm tired to say it. I wish I could come up with a different word, Richard. Help me out here. I'm lost. But I just want to let you know that I'm always planning down the road, trying to get support for us in the names that we're following. These funds wouldn't buy GTII, but they would buy Finger Motion. But if Finger Motion, Wolf works, if Finger Motion works, it'll be easy to move them into GTII. So I'm trying to build up as a broker, you call it a book. Am I correct, William?
That's what we called it.
We build up your book. And if your people are making money, they keep following along with you. So laying out the story of why you should own Finger, then we'll go to GTII and I'll lay that story out down the road. This can all change in a second. Again, I don't know if the SEC is going to step in, but I do think MMTLP, Pete from Philly has said that there's definitely ruffled feathers behind the scenes if they brought out Charlie Gasparino to try to, poo-poo the signings. So again, you're getting closer. Just understand the mentality of an institutional broker or William as a broker. This is how you do it. I just can't say the same name every day. And, people trade many stocks while we're watching 2 or 3 stocks. It's very
Well, and
hard.
I think you have to trade on the margin a little bit, try to make some money. It keeps you interested
Well, go find your
while
own-
you hold
find
the
your
other
own-
stock.
Find your own poison and try to, that's what I try to do. I try to find something. Hey, I made the mistake. I had ALT. It went $6 and I bought GDC.
It's not
But,
over yet.
No,
GDC,
I'm not saying that. I was trying to do something to enhance my position, and I have to wait it out now. It's just nothing I can do.
maybe when
that's
that
how-
YJ Ledbetter one goes up.
I don't own it. I could care less. I'm just using it as a case study so you can understand how they trade it. That one I expect to go on the close. I doubt anybody who's short any kind of stock, 100, 500, 1,000 shares, will sit there and say, hey, we lock it in and just take what I can get on a day trade. Because remember, these guys can naked short throughout the day. All right. But when it comes to the end of the day, they don't want to go any further. They don't have a toxic debenture against them. Just very different as a naked short intraday. These day trading places allow them to do it. So these guys are just looking to sell 1,000 shares, and hopefully they can buy it back down $25 and make $25,000 if they're lucky. But what happens when you're wrong? They're out of business. They lose everything. That's the risk reward in those games. And that's why you shouldn't play them, because they're very dangerous. Same thing with NVIDIA and Tesla. These things are very dangerous, high-flying stocks that are all over the place. Finger motion, as you can see, once the volatility comes out of the stock, it's easy to play it, right? It's not, the volatility was at 7 when they were driving it down to 4.5, whatever, when that attack by Capybara. And the company went after Capybara. Now the volatility is out of the name. You got the swing is 20 cents now. Before it was $2 or $3, right? Now you don't have it anymore. So the volatility's come out of the name. That's a good thing. And that's what the shorts hate. They need volatility because that's how they can profit and make people bail out. That ZJ thing, they're trying to create volatility. Push it down, it's all over the place. So they need volatility. No volatility, they're in trouble. All right, I just had that thought. Whatever it was, that was my thought.
Well, thank you for sharing.
I'll see you later.
All right.
Call ended.
Well, anyway, to my calculation, 92% turnout in 2020 of people over age 18 in the United States. That's pretty good for the Democrats. So if they start with that head start, it's going to be a good year for the Democrats. 81 million plus 74 million. That's pretty big turnout. So it'll be a good year for the Democrats, as I used to be called. I know. No, all right. Do you feel confident? I don't know. West Virginia. Anyway, I'm answering that the wrong way. I was assuming you meant that it would directly go to 8 or 9. I think it can get to 8 or 9 or higher if there's a buy-in. But I think any rally that comes after, let's say, finger goes and really moves and people bring their money into GTII, I think any run up is going to be, and I'd have to look at a chart to give you the exact numbers, but you can probably think of them. But I'm going to guess, without having a chart in front of me, sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 range people are going to sell. My point is, West Virginia, as the stock goes back up, people who got in at 3, 4, 5, 6, they may just say, you know what, I want to get out, get my money back. That's human nature. So my point is, as it runs up, there may be a stall to get through that resistance. It's called resistance. You broke down my resistance. And you broke down my resistance. Anyway, and then yeah, it can go back to those levels. It can go higher. If they get the Treno mining deal done, it could open at $20. But that's been going on so long, people probably think I'm a loony to even bring it up. But it's not dead. On the other hand, I think she's dead. No, I'm not. I hope inadvertent. I hope this is a serious question. I mean, it's got to be one of the stupidest questions of the day. But I'll answer it because from your perspective, you can't tell that I'm not an idiot too. NextBridge does not trade. So NextBridge has no bid, has no ask, has no opening price, has no closing price. And so inadvertent, there's no price for the stock. And it sits in your MMTLP, sits in your account. NextBridge sits over at AST. And when I moved mine, it no longer is in my account. So what your question really is why doesn't MMTLP have a price? As a chit representing ownership of NextBridge. Fact is, NextBridge doesn't trade. So I answered your idiot question. Well, Chuck, you need whales to buy GTII, but you also need the shorts having to cover. And that's your whale. That's your mastodon. That's your, brontosaurus. Although I think whales are bigger than brontosauri. Some whales. Last time we talked about how they drop it. Well, let's see. It's got a very low float. 147. Yeah, they dropped it a bit. I'm not upset. If it was a fair question, then I'm a jerk for calling it an idiot question. But inadvertent, your account reflects the value of stocks which trade in the open market. Therefore, they can't get a price. It's going to show zero. It's not going to show a price. The only thing that would, back when on Wall Street, when they could hold physical securities on your behalf, they would hold securities in safekeeping. You could petition to your brokerage firm to give it a value, and that value would be set once a year or whenever you requested it. And you could get, if you could document the value, you could get a print on your statement for the value of shares that you held in safekeeping. But this is not that kind of situation. Number one, brokerage firms no longer hold shares in your name or in safekeeping. That is why this fraud goes on. Number two, MMTLP is worth zero. Number three, the shares of NextBridge, which MMTLP represents, is a privately held company. There is no public data available as to that value. We can only make our guesstimates. So it would be hard to get, even if you could hold NextBridge as in your name, in safekeeping at your brokerage firm, it would be hard to get a value. And there's no daily price. Therefore, you cannot get a daily price update on your statement. All right. Bought a few more finger, really hoping for a nice bump. I think the earnings are going to be great, Frank, because they're going to be positive. You know, they're going to be, instead of just revenue, I think you're going to see earnings. That's true, Nunya. You're the best. And that's why I responded that way. I was probably out of line. I have no idea. Here, squeeze my finger. I have no idea. What's LQR? Let me look. I don't even know what LQR is. Liquor? I just met her. That's a bad joke, I know. 386. Liquor House announces full exercise and closing of underwriters over allotment. Well, that's the green shoe. And that's normally a good sign, but you know, the markets have changed. A niche e-commerce platform specializing in booze. What happens, Dos Equis, and I assume it still happens. This is a what? This is a what stock? I can't tell if it trades on the NASDAQ or the, darn it, New York. I assume it's a New York Stock Exchange company. Here, let me see in the news if they say it. No, it's NASDAQ. It's a NASDAQ company. I'll say in a normal market, it's a positive. What they would do, you do an offering, a secondary, or an IPO, either way. And let's say you get institutional buyers and retail buyers, I'm making it up, for $20 million. And I don't know what ignoring the shares. A lot of hedge funds and institutions would use DVP accounts. I don't know what they're called now, but they would have DVP accounts. They'd call me up, Billy, this is Johnson. Do you have any LQR? Put me down for 5,000 shares. And they call up, Neil Baby, do you have any LQR? All right, put me down for 10,000 shares. They call up, hey Dubs, do you have any LQR? Give me 5,000 shares. Hey Al, put me down for 20,000 shares. And they call all around the street, trying to get as many shares as possible, because their information was that the deal was mispriced, the demand was higher than expected, and the price is going to go up. So they buy it. They don't send. Back then, we could take the order without cash being in the account. So they give us the order. I assume they'd send, I can't remember now, they'd send it the next day, same day, wire. But the stock would immediately be DVP'd to their prime broker because they sell it right away. They sell it right away from me. And back then they couldn't trace the certificates, I would still get my underwriting commission, but the stock would be traded away. And this would screw with the underwriter, my firm. Let's say Morgan Stanley's the underwriter. And then because the underwriter has a responsibility to maintain an orderly market. So it's all of a sudden, all these shares are being sold. They don't. It's hard to maintain that. They have to come in and buy shares. They have to buy shares to support the price, at least for a little while. And then if the shite hits the fan, well, it's a bad deal. But it works in the reverse too. So if there's a limited amount of shares and the demand for shares in the IPO or on the syndicate desk for the secondary overwhelms the offering, there's a green shoe, or this, where the over allotment here was $392,857 shares. So the demand overwhelmed ostensibly. Lots of times this is how you pay your broker, just to do it, because there's a lot of commission in it. But anyway, the allocation. This is a way of maintaining a stable market to the upside, at least briefly. And then the company benefits, the underwriter gets more commission, and it balances the demand versus supply, maintaining an orderly market, at least briefly. That's what underwriters used to have to do. Now it doesn't seem like they have to do doodly squat. But my reaction is it's good news. In terms of raising money for the company. But I don't know anything else. I see something down here that we'll get to. I answered this. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Nunya. I think the earnings are going to be good. LQR, reverse split. Well, this is the endless thing. Yeah, I don't trust reverse splits at all. God, the whole market shouldn't be this criminal. We get upset with CEOs and boards. They don't know. They're predisposed to believe that the liars on the other side of the conference table are gentlemen and gentlewomen. And then they also believe that the self-regulatory, thank you, Bill Clinton, go down in history as one of the worst presidents in terms of long-term impact for some of the decisions, like busting Glass-Steagall and giving SROs strength, and then allowing derivatives and credit default swaps to have no oversight at all. Thank you, Rubin. Thank you, Graham Leach Bliley. And thank you, Bill Clinton. And by the way, he didn't hang out with Epstein for the chicks. He's just a smart guy. And Epstein, they were just talking politics. All right. Hi, Amby. All right. So I wanted to quickly read this to you. I'm sure you saw it. I won't read it all. But Finger Motion versus Crappy Bear Research and John Doe's. This matter comes before the court by motion filed by plaintiff Finger Motion. Remember, that's Mark Bazile. For entry of final judgment and permanent injunction by default against defaulting defendant Crappy Bear Research. This court, having considered plaintiff's motion for default judgment, the declaration of Martin J. Shen in support of plaintiff's motion for default judgment, executed December 22, 2023. The declaration of Merck. What's up, Merck? Merck R. Bazile, Esquire, in support of plaintiff's motion for default judgment, executed December 26, 2023, and blah, 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 blah. No answer has been filed by defaulting defendant in the instant action, and upon all other pleadings and papers on file in this action is hereby ordered, adjudged, and decreed as follows. Defaulting defendant's liability. On October 19th, plaintiff Finger Motion commenced this action against defendant Crappy Bear Research with the filing of plaintiff's complaint. On October 31, plaintiff Finger Motion filed an ex parte motion to serve the complaint and a proposed summons. Ex parte means. Not being party to. Summons upon defaulting defendant Crappy Bear Research via email to the emailed address, crappybearresearch@proton.me. On November 6th, this court issued an order authorizing plaintiff to serve defaulting defendant its summons, etc., to the same email, etc., and none, etc. Clerk of the court issued default, blah, blah, blah. Ordered, adjudged, and decreed that pursuant to federal R-Civ P55B2, judgment is hereby granted in favor of plaintiff on all claims properly pled. Why do people say pleaded? It's usually pled. Anyway, against defendant Crappy Bear Research in the complaint. It is further ordered, adjudged, and decreed that the court has found that the plaintiff has sufficiently pled its claims and sufficiently set forth the basis for which injunctive relief should be awarded in its complaint and motion for default judgment. Defaulting defendant, that's Crappy Bear, and all persons acting in concert with and under the direction of or individually in support of defaulting defendant, regardless of whether located in the United States or abroad, and any media outlet who publishes or republishes the article entitled any media outlet who publishes or republishes the article entitled Finger Motion, a serial case of promotion that will end in shareholder dilution, $1 target, the Crappy Bear report, who receives actual notice of this order are hereby A, directed to publicly retract in writing and or remove any reference to Crappy Bear's report from website and social media accounts. B, directed to remove any and all references to and statements about plaintiff from its website. C, permanently are enjoined and restrained from authoring or publishing additional articles or making public statement about plaintiff or its business on any website and or social media account except for public written retraction of the crappy bearer report. It is ordered and adjudged and decreed that any failure to comply with the terms of this order by the default. It is further ordered, adjudged, and decreed that any failure to comply with the terms of this order of defaulting by the default. Let's give the computer a second to calm down. It is further ordered, adjudged, and decreed that any failure to comply with the terms of this order by defaulting defendant or any persons acting in concert with, under the direction of, or individually in support of defaulting defendant or any media outlet who publishes or republishes the crappy bearer report, who receives actual notice of this order, shall be deemed in contempt of the court and subject to contempt remedies to be determined by the court. The court shall retain jurisdiction over this matter and the parties in order to construe and enforce this order. Honorable Judge B. Cronin, United States District Judge. I got to get a new computer. That's my number one. Actually, my number one New Year's resolution. Get my eyes done. Number 2, get a computer. Number 3. All right. So I showed you that, I originally started with this list of year-end buys, and then I expanded it here. For some reason in the transfer, I didn't include Wolf, but it's there. It's right there. So anyway, this morning I made this list. Last Friday, I put all the prices of these stocks, and then today, midday. So I'll read it down to you. Well, I can do it up here. Finger is down 11 cents. GTII is down 5 cents in the week, which, by the way, is the whole point. This week gives a chance, perhaps, to either buy for a trade or add to positions at lower prices. Logic is actually up 3 cents, which is a nice move. These are approximate, just for simplicity. CAUD now is up almost 30 cents, even though I got frustrated with that financing. That might have rung the bell for the bottom, All right, and then HNRC is down. Sorry, about a third of a penny. Vocal is down about, I don't know, a tenth of a penny. GDC is down 24 cents since last week. GoLogic is down 4 cents. CVM is down 11 cents. Wolf, the one I didn't do a video on and I didn't buy, is up 95 cents. CNLV is up, I don't know what that is, 0.0001, but it's up. Physical Silver Trust is down 12 cents, and NWBO is down 9.5 cents. That was my menu of stocks to look at, to nibble at, or accumulate for a trade to see what happens in January. The 2 I ended up adding to this week, I already own several of these, but the 2 I added to this week, it doesn't mean I'm changing my mind on the longer term strategies on all of these. It's just trying to pick a price, hoping to trade out in sort of January, February, or just hold on. I added to HNRC and I added to Logic. But Finger is really attractive. GTII is down. CAUD has had a run, so it proves my fears unfounded. But let's be aware that somewhere in that group are toxic dilutive players. That didn't happen by accident. HNRC, I like. They have 2 dividends coming. That's the main thing. But they have 62 cents a share. In their last earnings report, it stated 62 cents a share net asset value. He can't write that unless he wants to go to prison. Vocal, I don't know what to say about Vocal. GDC, I would have added to GDC, but I went here first. But I think DC could have a similar run like that one that Ham was talking about. I would add to GoLogic. I don't expect immediate results in GoLogic, but GoLogic is going to do things like Logic did. And that was $8 stock when I got it as a distribution from my Logic shares 2 Decembers ago. I remember it came out trading over $8. So there's room in GoLogic to go up. CVM, a friend of mine always tells me about. This is a medical company that got screwed by the financing on Wall Street. And Adriana Friedman collects her $28 million doing F-all about it. She couldn't care less. And she is careless. But this has a similar attraction to me as NWBO. It could get bought out. And then it's sayonara shorties. Wolf is up. Look at that. Wolf is up. Now, Ham said his guys are going to sell here and they're going to buy Finger. So we'll see what happens. Physical Sprott, Physical Silver Trust. And silver in general. That's good. I'm gonna try to every day, every week, every month tell you guys as you have profits, put 10% of your profits into silver for as long as it's cheap. That's how you're going to separate yourself from this financial nightmare that Adriana Friedman smiles and says, we're going to spread wealth like mayonnaise around the world. We are great. She's a sad excuse for a CEO. She should be looking out for you and for CEOs, but instead she looks out for her paycheck because, darn it, it's been a patriarchy and men have screwed us for so long, and I'm a woman blazing trails and I'm not going to worry about how I do it. Well, you should worry about it. You should worry when you're in a position of leadership. It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man. Your responsibility is your responsibility. You're not doing it, Adriana Friedman. Anyway, and then NWO. You heard what Ham says. It's got 1 billion shares out. That's the problem. That's the toxic dilution. You can have a great story, but these contracts that they write up, and I've printed out a few of them. I don't print them out anymore. These contracts just destroy the denominator. I mean, what's a good story divided by 1 billion shares? It's a lot different than 10 million shares. A lot different. And so this one that you said, reverse split, CEOs still don't get it. Hey, I've got 150 million shares out. I'll do a 50-for-1 reverse split. I've only got 3 million shares out. It's going to be great. But what it does is it looses the criminals to reattack that. They get all their capital back without paying taxes, and they go back to work. All right. So those were two things I wanted to talk about. Let's see what's up here. And then what time is it? It's 2:56. What is it, lucky boy? What is it? What is it? You're a good boy. Don't look so sad. I know it's over. But let's not watch the bridges that we're burning. Lay your head upon my shoulder, a pillow. Put your warm and tender body close to mine. Hear the whisper of the raindrops as they fall against the window. And make believe you still love me. One more time. For the times I'll get along. You'll find another. All right. I'm looking up the prices. There's no real movement. Let me see what Ryan says. I sold CAD. Yeah. See, Ryan, I didn't get that opportunity at my firm. I didn't get the chance to sell CAUD at those prices. I got a chance later. I think I could have sold it when I got it at like 220 or 230. I didn't. I ended up just hanging on. Logic, like an idiot, I didn't sell. I mean, I knew it was going to be under pressure. I predicted it would go to 5 cents, and then in a prediction, I said it'll go to a penny. But the reason I didn't sell is I remembered the post record date action by, I think it was FINRA on HNRC. If you had owned HNRC on December 22nd or something, you got the distribution of 1 share of Worldwide Holdings for every 2 shares of Logic. I held it then, and then I sold in January. But then because it was more than some percentage of the company, like 25% of the company, FINRA changed the record date to May 26th. So I had to buy back in, which I did. So I did get a distribution of Worldwide Holdings. But the reason I didn't sell Logic is I was worried about that. That was a mistake on my part. Because, Ryan, now I bought more Logic this week, and last week. The reason I did it, and it's as simple as this. It's not because I'm picking favorites, although I think this has the best chance of doubling your money or tripling, maybe making 4 or 5 times your money. I'm not Logic to me, unless you get blown away by the news release, it's a trade. But even now, after buying the additional Logic, my cost basis is 15 cents. So my cost basis is where you got out. I think CAUD is going to have a hard time getting back to 590 unless they take some dramatic steps. Having said that, I think CAUD has an excellent chance if they can get above, I don't know, when I look at the charts, it's hard to see the number, but let's say $2.40. You'd have to ask ARCA to get the correct breakout, but let's say 240. It could be lower. If it breaks through there, you could get a run back to $10, $12 in CAUD. So let's see your question. I sold CAUD, sold Logic. Would you recommend staying? Well, I think what I would do, since you got such a nice price, I might just reestablish my position. And that means, like, let's say you paid, I don't know where it's trading right now, $1.40, and you did 590. So it wouldn't cost you very much to reestablish your position in CAUD. And I think it's a good time to get back in. I do think it's a good time. But just remember with CAUD, the criminals want to get it under $1. I wouldn't put a stop loss in, but I would watch it. I think the counterattack by Peter Boards is going to be effective, and I think they're going to get that stock price up. But it's risky. I would go from speculative to highly speculative on CAUD right now. Logic, I don't think you should sell. I think you should hang on. However, I wouldn't get greedy in Logic. I think if it goes, let's say, to 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, the higher it goes above 35, the more I'd be wanting to pull the trigger. I think the deal they announced, Ryan, ostensibly will be worth, if I had to pick the midpoint or the most likely point, 60 cents a share to us. But then it comes down to a question of what is the valuation really? How much credit does it get? There'll be a discount to that value. So I don't know, 40, 50 cents might be the point to get out of Logic. On the other hand, well, this is where I have a problem. If the shell is just purchased by a reverse merger company, it's just bought as is, the shorts are going to have a problem. But if it's a merger inward, it gets a little tricky because there's going to be, we all voted for it, there's going to be a reverse split. Now that reverse split is not going to be effected until the merger's done, as far as I can tell, if they're smart. So we'll end up with a company, either 1 for 35 or 1 for 50 or somewhere in between. We'll end up with I hope it's NYSE, but maybe it's more likely a NASDAQ company. Remember Adriana Friedman with the big smile? She doesn't do anything for CEOs or for shareholders. She's there to protect the hedge funds. But at least that's her action so far. But I don't think that the CEO, which is Brent right now, recognizes, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. If he does a reverse split, that frees up a lot of capital to the shorts, to the criminals, and they can start selling again. But offsetting that, I'm sure that whatever company is merged into Logic is going to be a big ass company. I don't know how big. But look, Brent came on here and said that reverse merger candidates were coming in at 600 to 750 million. You can go back and listen, but that's my memory. Who knows what size he would require for a company just to come in as a partner in the company. But I think because there's so many companies interested and involved in bidding, that I can almost assure you that any company that comes into Logic is going to have large revenues, earnings positive, and may even have cash in the kitty. So I really think once the stock gets up to 40, 50, 60 cents, the criminals are going to have a really hard time hurting the stock. The market cap of Logic right now is $10 million. I don't know, to be conservative, if he said that an acquisition company was going to be 600 to 750 million, if you took a merger candidate instead of a reverse merger, and I know that's weird linguistical difference, the difference being that Logic continues as an ongoing company and a big company comes in to it rather than the thing being bought. It's not much difference, but there is a difference. I don't know. Let's take the low number, 600 million, and let's say take 50% of that. If you want to take lower, you can, but 50% of 600 million is 300 million. I don't know. 300 million would be the market cap of the new company, and Logic right now is 10 million. Maybe we would get 15% of that or more, 10 to 15%, maybe more. Let's say we get 25% of that. 25% of 300 million is 75 million. The market cap right now is 10 million. Ryan, that implies a 7 or 8 to 1 movement in Logic from here, not from your 2.5 cents, from this price, 6.5 cents. That implies 7, 8 times movement into the new value. So I wouldn't sell Logic here. On the other hand, depending on how the deal is struck, they may say we want to restrict people's stocks. So I really want to emphasize, I see Logic as a trade. And, if you double your money, triple your money, 5x your money, whatever you do, and it goes higher, just be glad we had this time together. Just be glad you made money, and then we'll do something else. You don't need to do anything. Darren, don't worry about it. I will make sure that if it happens, everybody here who wants to, I'll get an attorney to make sure that we can do it. If you're not an accredited investor, you have to be a friend of the company. And I'm trying to remember, it's either 32 or 38 investors can come in as friends and family. But maybe there'll be a way a lawyer can do it in a different way. So everybody who wants to come in on the ground floor can come in. I won't forget to reach out to everybody if it gets closer. Oh, Rick L, no, don't buy copy coins. Don't buy, I really don't listen to anybody. Don't listen to anybody that's pitching, that guy, that actor that used to be handsome, or just don't listen to anybody that it pops up. Gold is the place to be, silver, and these, just don't do it. I don't have, I'll be up front. If I could get a deal being sponsored by a silver or gold company, I would look into it. But I would hope it would be one of the companies that I already like. But I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it with companies like that, Rick L, at all. And I don't have any arrangement with anybody, so it's a moot point. But to start with in silver, I would stick with US coins, either junk silver or silver dollars, new or old, used. But I would stick with US coins. The best silver, I'm if I'm wrong, just give me some leeway. By memory, the 0.9999 silver comes out of Austria and Canada, maybe Australia. US, I think, is 0.999. Anyway, it's better at some of the other mints. But in an emergency, in a panic, in a time when what I imagine is there'll be a blow off, just massive rally in silver. One, if you buy it, don't open it. Two, if it's US, you live in the US, buyers are in the US, I just think you'll get a better price. And it's just that should be a core position anyway. But yeah, don't fall for all the other crap. I just talked about MMTLP to one gentleman's annoyance for a long time. But bottom line, I don't think there's any update on MMTLP worth getting hyped up about. I do give credit to Anna, Queen of Trades, and several other people, Jennifer, Junk Savvy, Busy Brands, Syntex, Patrick. There's so many names. It's hard for my feeble brain to remember all of the monikers, the handles. But there's dozens of people, and probably a cadre of leadership of a dozen or 20 people that have just worked their butt off. And this letter to Congress from Congress is incredible. And we're going to break it down, but there's no real update on MMTLP in terms of an anticipated payout. I think from what I understand, everything's moving forward apace at Nextbridge. It is my opinion that you're going to see dramatically higher oil prices next year. It's going to be a combination of decline. Decline curves always bite. They always bite. Any field, any discovery, any well has a decline curve. And I won't be political, but the mood in Washington is no more drilling. We're going to move to electric. It's insane. So we're not drilling. And there were a lot of PUDs. Particularly in Texas, but other places, as prices went up, as demand went up, that could be turned on. Why did that happen? Because during the shutdowns, demand for oil and gas dramatically decreased worldwide. And we sell oil on the margin. And in the United States, oil primarily stored for sale is in Cushing, Oklahoma. I mean, there's exceptions, but that's where it's stored for sale. And so those storage tanks got full and there was no place to store oil. So that marginal oil that was produced went under, because of contractual obligations. And where the hell am I going to put it? In the pigsty? Oil went under zero. So anyway, drilling stopped, and you could buy oil and gas properties for next to nothing. I couldn't convince anybody when I was in London to even look. Oh no, oil's going lower. Oh, it's $27 a barrel right now. It's not going much less. No, trust me, it's going lower. All right. Well, now we're at what, 70? So anyway, the decline curves are going to bite. The proved undeveloped have all been turned back on, or largely turned back on, and those will have decline curves. So you're going to see a period where oil prices are really high to induce drilling. And that's going to help MMTLP. The other thing that I believe is a real risk for oil prices is as much as Victoria Nuland wishes to believe that her pronouncements from the 8th floor at the Department of State are going to solve all the problems in the world. I think she's going to find out that the boats we put off the coast of Israel, off the coast of Yemen, are going to have to sit back, and they're going to be ineffective. We supply jets and munitions to Israel, and for that matter, to other countries. Are our jets any different when we fly them off an aircraft carrier? That's a thought that I heard from Scott Ritter, and it makes sense to me. It's not going to be any different. And it's going to be just, anyway, so I think our Navy is out of it. Remember that this administration abandoned our ground-based aircraft carriers as the idea was. The best in Afghanistan, we abandoned it to China. But hey, this administration, much better than the previous one, thank God. I mean, at least we don't have to listen to read tweets. But we gained footholds in the Middle East at the cost of treasure, blood, arms, eyes, feet, and we just threw it away because this administration is anything that the last administration did, this administration had to undo and reverse. So we don't have purchase in the Middle East anymore. Who's going to take? Maybe Qatar, maybe Bahrain, maybe Saudi Arabia will back us up. I doubt it. Look, I mean, in fairness, very few Arab states do anything material to support Palestinians. They could, but there seems to be they used to call it the Arab Street. There seems to be such anger, and I'm not trying to take sides, although I have my opinion, and maybe it shows through. I'm not trying to cause trouble by what I'm saying. But it's clear that in the Arab Street, in the population, there's an enormous amount of anger. And all you need is a coalition or a coalescing of that, and it starts showing up. I think Iran, I think the Victoria Nuland wants war with Iran. That's my opinion. Idiocy, absolute idiocy. The Hezbollah, which is, as I understand it, north in Lebanon, they could make a lot of trouble for Israel in the north. Hamas is bogging down Israel in Gaza. And in my opinion, Israel is completely obliterating Gaza Strip, absolutely obliterating it. And you can determine whatever definition you want for what that means to human beings there. But I think the risk, Jason, is Turkey, Iran, other coalitions, even Egypt, and possibly Russia come in against Israel and the United States. I hope that doesn't happen. But World War I started when, I forget his name, Prisnap or something, shot the Archduke of Austria. And then all these, and it's roughly what, 100 years ago, all these young men and old men and treaties start getting triggered, and the war is going to be short. So it goes all sorts of misjudgments. And that's what I'm afraid of, is misjudgment. Anyway, if that doesn't happen, the other thing that could happen is that they place an oil embargo on the United States and on Israel and anyone who helps Israel, so that oil prices could go very high. So anyway, that's a long answer. You can't worry. I wouldn't worry about MMTLP. You've got great guys representing your interests. They're the same interests as theirs. And anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Yeah, logic, I think, look, it's 7 cents, 6 cents. I can't tell. Last trade is 7 cents, but the ask is 6 cents. Very interesting. You could buy 15,000 shares at 6 cents. That's tempting. But logic, I think, will be a good trade. If I had to predict, I think logic will be over 10 cents in the first or second week of January, and I think headed higher. So fruititious, I like that word, fruititious. Mr. Bojangles, dance, dance, dan, 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 dance. That's awesome. I used to, and I still have some, but I want to get back into it. Look, for a while, they had it under control. Bitcoin became the pressure valve for the markets, but I think the number one, well, oil and natural gas are completely mispriced. But that's a global issue. It's a global balance, and eventually, I think oil will trade over $500 a barrel. I'm not saying tomorrow. I'm not saying that. That's a combination of a devaluing of the dollar and all sorts of things. But that could take a decade. Silver, number one commodity, which is mispriced. Number one thing to buy. Yeah, Engelhard bars 0.999. Yeah, I'll try to do some videos on it. You can't go wrong. Rick, the number one thing you have to decide with silver, are you trying to buy the best, the thing you're most proud of, the thing you can show off, or are you just trying to get ounces? And if you don't own silver now, just try to get ounces. Well, Luke, I'm not going to say that out at the risk of being, I'm not sure they're going to allow him. He's elderly. Not sure they're going to allow him in. if I had to guess, what we're going to have is Joe Biden. He is the most popular president in United States history. 81.3 million votes. Handily, in the most honest, transparent, and fairest election in the history of the world. He got 81 million votes, and the runner-up got more votes than anybody in history. More votes than he got before, more votes than Obama, more votes than Hillary. He got 74 million. But he lost handily to the most popular president in United States history, a man who could fill parking lots of supporters. A dozen Jeeps would honk at him. He could, I mean, we had the lockdown, so you have to understand, but he got people to come out to his rallies, 10 people at a time, 12 people, 20 people at a time. The single most popular president in the United States. I think the Democratic Party is not going to allow anyone to run against him. They're going to try to have the first primary in South Carolina, where Congressman Colburn, anyway, where Biden will win. He'll get on a roll. He's going to win the Democratic nomination. I believe as soon as he has the nomination, he will suddenly, the doctors will find out that he is senile, or he has Alzheimer's, or he's aging in place. It'll be all of a sudden. It's not happening now, but I think what will happen is the special delegates, the super delegates, will choose Hillary Clinton to replace Joe Biden. So I think you're going to see an election this fall between Hillary Clinton and probably Donald Trump. And then third party, it'll be maybe Marianne Wilson and RFK, and maybe that other gentleman, Cornel West. Maybe there'll be 3 third-party candidates. But I believe there'll be another fair election. You'll have massive turnout, and the votes will come in at such a high volume that late at night, the machines and the people will be overwhelmed by the volume of votes. So it'll take several days, if not weeks, to get the votes out in several key states. And I think Hillary Clinton will be your new president. And I think Gary Gensler will be Treasury Secretary. And it's possible that the world will be at war. It's possible. Big Al. Big Al. You never know who's listening. All right, so all right, it's 3:30. Do you know where your children are? Logic is oddly trading last trade above its ask of 7 cents. Finger is 406. CAUD is 142, but the ask is 145. HNRC, a lot of volume in HNRC, so I don't know what to make of that. Is that they're trying to keep it down for the last print of the year, or did they take toxic financing, or is the 10 million he announced in January a form of toxic? So the underwriters who just keep selling stock to hand it to them? Maybe. Or was it because we started buying? I don't know. But it's up 10%. And the thing with HNRC, he's going to give a dividend very soon. He's going to announce earnings again. And I believe he could announce the HNRA. That's the ownership of the SPAC, the HNR, Houston Natural Resources Acquisition SPAC, is going to be distributed. And that's Pogo producing. I don't know what the real name of it is, Pogo something, but it's the producing part of it. They have 40%. Real production, real assets, real cash flow. By my arithmetic, that's worth 35 cents a share to HNRC. It's pretty nice. All right. This LQR I have here, down 19 cents, 388. So that apparently, whoever asked, that was a reverse split. It's probably headed lower. Go Logic, 58 cents, but the bid is 30 cents. Very low volume. But I think Go Logic could be a $6 stock, $8 stock, $5 stock next year. NWBO, 73 cents. CLNV, 0.0388. The financing's the trouble there, but I think it's a great mission that company is on. Wolf, 305, 3045. Wait a minute, Wolf. That's a lot of stock traded. 55 million shares, is that possible? Well, the average volume for the last 10 days has been 27 million. I wish I had held on to that. Then I'm following this friend of mine, likes the company, CVM, Cellsci, 283. What did I leave off? I don't know. Let's leave it there. FINRA plus SEC don't handle the case. Oh, at Interpol. Yeah. Well, I don't know about the 100. I think it's 104 brokers, but 105 don't have the money. I don't know about that. If you use a standard distribution curve, I would guess 2% of the brokers are in trouble. So I would guess 2 or 3 brokers are in trouble with this MMTLP deal. And I would say 20% have exposure. So I would say 3 to 20 brokers are where the heart of the trouble is. The other 80 brokers, 90 brokers, whatever that shakes out, I bet they'll be able to cover rather small positions. It'll be a loss. That's just my guess. I think the problem is with, like I say, I think 2, maybe 3 prime brokers will be in massive trouble with this. And I would guess 5 to 15 brokerage firms have enough of a problem where you might be right in toto. But remember, the monies from the sales are sitting at the prime brokerage firms. So the brokers will call up the prime broker and say, hey, you vouchsafed this trade. We want our shares, and it'll come out of the prime brokers. But I don't disagree with you that there are brokerage firms and prime brokers who won't have the money to pay and it'll have to go upstairs. I just don't think it'll be a subset. I'm guessing, but I'd say 85 broker dealers will be able to absorb the losses and move on. That's my guess. Yeah, it's probably time for lunch. I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but I'll leave in 20 minutes. I'll go walk the boy. Yeah, the infinite risk would be fun. And by the way, Dips Patel, it all looks like the over-the-counter market will never come alive again. I like what Brent Sun said the other interview. They're afraid of us. That's why they come after people. That's why they fight so much. It's why they keep these stocks down. But once I got involved in a gold company and gold assets and shipping, and I learned more than I ever wanted to know. But I visited Spain and loved learning about this. But there's this pirate ash they ship of varying qualities, and they put it in ships. But if it's wet, if it has water in it, that water can start getting momentum, sloshing side to side in these cargo ships, and it can capsize the ship. So that's something they put the material out to dry, and then they carefully load it so that any water is not very much, and it doesn't have that capacity to gain momentum in the hold of huge waves of water destabilizing the ship. Well, that's what Dips Patel I think of that we as retail are going to do to the criminals. They have their ship going. They have the lazy, lying, complicit regulators. They have NASDAQ captured. Thank you very much, Adriana Friedman. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your service at $28 million a year. They have OTC, they have FINRA, they have SEC, they have Congress, and they have the journalism. There are no journalists anymore in the United States. There's one or two, but they get sidelined. I like, there's a woman that used to have red hair, now it's dark. There's another woman that I like very much, Kim Iverson. There's a man who used to work for a mainstream, and then he went off and he writes for someone else. He's a little more heavy set. I like him, Seymour Hersh, but there really aren't. I'll try to get those names for you, my brain. But there really aren't very many journalists anymore. There's this guy, Pepe. Anyway, my brain's not working. There are some journalists, but not very many. Mainstream, it's all bought and paid for by BlackRock and the rest of the banksters. So I think that this whole system of destroying, let me see if I can find it, of destroying market caps of destroying market caps. All right, I'm not finding it right away. Okay, I'm not finding it right away. Of destroying market caps is like putting wet ore in the hold of a ship. And if we can get it rocking, my boat, I don't want it to be rocking. We can capsize the shorts. That's what I think is coming. And that's something that Brent highlighted, that we have more power than we realize. And I agree with him. And I agree with him that we only need to get one going. And the next thing you know, it's all she wrote for it's time for the shorts. I think his name is Pepe Escobar. The one, he's a good analyst. He's a good journalist. I'm trying to. I'll look for it as I answer some questions. Denmark. Well, that's the problem. I don't think Robinhood owns Hal. I think Webull and Robinhood, they don't own anything real. They don't own anything real. Everything they do is fractional shares, and I don't think they own anything real. So they're having a hard time locating real shares of NextBridge for your move. That's my opinion. So you may have no choice but just to wait and see what the settlement is for MMTLP, because Robinhood will have to pay that. You know, that may be what happens. Okay, there. I want to just, oh, please, don't you rock my boat, because I don't want my boat to be rocking. I'm technologically quite terrible at doing things. All right, I want to show you something. Who was that asked me that? Somebody. Let me show you something. Oh, please, don't you rock my boat, because I don't want my boat to be rocking. That'd be nice. The president's down in Barbados or something. That'd be nice to be celebrating and listening to Bob Marley. All right, 15 more minutes. And the wheel of death, the Apple spinning wheel of death. Tweet and retweet. Oh gosh, it's still spinning. I don't even know if you can hear me. I don't know if you can hear me because I see my lips moving, but I just see this wheel of spinning going on. All right, so all right, there it is. Let's see. It's still spinning. Oh, please. Don't you rock my boat. I don't want my boat to be rocking. Oh, please. Sorry, it takes so long with my technology to do anything. Oh, gosh. Let me find it. Let me find it. Sorry, it's everything always takes me too long with my technology. I hope this is worth it in the end of the day. It might not even be worth it. You're going to say you took all this time to do this? That's what you're going to say. And I'm going to say you're probably right. But it should have been easy. It should have been easy. So let me see. Let me see if it is easy. Oh, I'm so frustrated with my computer. Okay, so it's image 0066. 0066. Image 0066. Let me go. All right, here it is. 0066. Oh, come on. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Darn it. I'm really sorry. This is why I need to get a new computer. All right, there it is. Oh, it's still downloading. I see. All right, I don't know if you can hear me. It's still downloading. Oh, darn it. Let's look at some of the prices again. Wolf is trading at 303.5. GoLogic is trading at 557.99. HNRC is trading at 0242. CAUD is trading at 142 up 10 cents. Finger is trading at 408. Logic is trading at 6 cents now. 0.0599 by 0.066. Very little spread. And then GTII is trading at 41.94. It's up. All right, I think I can finally show this to you. Maybe. Everything takes so long. Okay. Is it worth it to you guys? Is it worth it? Probably not. You're going to say, William, why did you take so long to do this? Anyway, this is the Feast of the Shorts. This is something I put up a long time ago, and then Avid I saw put it up too after me, but that's all right. Avid, I don't know if he got it from me or he saw it somewhere else, but here's the feast. You see the pig in the middle? That's your company. You see the going from 12 o'clock clockwise, big bank dealers. That's Polar. That's the hedge funds. Depository trust and clearing is at 1 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, paid bashers and liars. At, I don't know, 5:30, placement double dealers. That's your Jeff Easton's, Philip Valier, Hai Lee Kim, Sam Chung, John Howard's. That's your Kramer Brothers. That's Yorkville. That's endless numbers of these firms, the placement double dealers. And then at 6:30, fake lawsuits. They come out and they tie you up, tie the companies up, they put out press releases that say there's nefarious action. And then at 9 o'clock, you see the Senate Banking Committee. They're in on it. They're paid off. And then you get back to the SEC and FINRA at 11 o'clock, and they're all bought and paid for. They all feast on the targeted company. They all feast on the targeted company. They've left a couple of people out here, the market makers. Before his time, after his time, they've left out the pipes, that the electronic pipes that just send endless shares in from offshore for sale. But there you go. Sorry that took so long. On a normal computer, I could have done that in 10 seconds. Well, I agree with that, Hoboken Sal. This whole universe we're looking at, this whole list that I showed you, the whole category is speculative. The whole category is speculative. Can't find my list. I'm sure I couldn't find my head if it were attached to my body. Anyway, I can't find my list. Oh, here it is. Nope, I just showed it all to you. Oh, here it is, over here. Everything on that list is speculative, except I would say for the silver, the physical silver trust. Your broker will call that speculative, but I think that's a core position. Everything else is speculative. Different degrees. Different. So I agree with you, Hoboken Sal. And I agree with you. I think it is buyer beware. I couldn't agree with you more. And as Saul as I have described it, it's like riding a tiger. Ride it for as long as you want, but get out before the tiger turns around and eats you. I've never been a diamond hands guy in these stocks, which of course is why I don't still own Wolf while it's up. Absolutely, Sal. You call them financial advisors, and that's fine. We'll give them that credit that they're financial advisors, and what they're saying, therefore, is better than what we're discussing. But you're absolutely correct. If I were sitting at a desk at Morgan Stanley or at Bank of America, I would never even discuss these stocks. I would tell you, oh, what's this? Why don't we sell that? Why don't we put it in the Merrill Lynch Asset Plus Bus Trust Fund number 283? And I'll tell you something else, Hoboken Sal. Your so-called financial advisors will say there's no such thing as a naked short. But your caution, I support 100%. It should say retail invested. Absolutely. Absolutely. It says mark across our forehead. It says sucker across our forehead. Makes you mad I would even consider Palestine Hamas. I don't know what you mean by that. I'm not trying to take sides with what I'm saying, Grump. I'm trying to tell you, I don't have much of a map here. This isn't a very good map, but it's from a conversation before. But Israel's surrounded by Egypt, Jordan, Iran over here, Syria, Transjordan, and Lebanon up here. So you've got Hamas here, you've got Hezbollah up here, you got Iran over here, you've got Jordan here, Syria's somewhere in here, it's not on this map. And that's where Russia can come in. You've got Turkey up here, and you've got Egypt. And then, down here is Saudi Arabia. And I mean, Grump, you can choose not to look at it. Hey, everything's great. Victoria Nuland is truthful. Blinken has it under control. CNN tells me it's okay. But that's not my point. You can be comfortable knowing that Israel is always right. They have a God-given right to this land, and that when they came into it, they were a people looking for a country, and this was a country without people. You can look at it that way. That's not my point. My point is, it doesn't matter what we think. Israel is circled all the way round up to Turkey and down and around to Egypt by Islam. And guess what's happening here? You got Palestinian Christians, you got atheists. You used to have Palestinian Jews. I don't know if they exist anymore. But you've got mostly Palestinian Muslims here. And Gaza Strip is being completely destroyed by the IDF. That's what their goal is. You can ignore that, and you can say that on October 7th, Hamas killed 1,700 people in an outrageous slaughter, and it's an atrocity. It's an atrocity. I agree with you. But when you study it and you realize that Israel itself, Israel reports that a lot of the deaths were caused by crossfire as young troops shot across the civilians. So a lot of it was crossfire. But it's horrible. It's an atrocity. So Grump 55, 1,700 people were slaughtered on October 7th. That's the number I remember. And something like 4,000 children, people under 15, were killed. It's horrible. Makes you want to vomit. 1,700. It was 1,700. It was 400 or 500 children. 300 or 400 children. It's enough to make you sick. But then Grump 55, and I don't know. I don't know the answer. You know, I guess the Bible says eye for eye, tooth for tooth, ear for ear, child for child. Well, since that time, the IDF, by their own account, or at least that's what I understand. I haven't seen anything from IDF. I just have absorbed reports from elsewhere that quote Israel. Something like 25,000 Palestinians have been killed. And of that, 6,000 are children. 6,000 are children. So I don't want to be mad. I mean, they're just Palestinians. And obviously every Palestinian is Hamas. Just like everyone in Oklahoma was a white supremacist when Jeffrey Dahmer blew up that building. But, you know, I don't want to upset you. But when do the scales get balanced? 1,700 killed in absolute atrocity on October 7th. 26,000 killed in Gaza Strip that we know of. I don't know, is that even yet? Or do we got to keep going? We got to go for 100,000? They've destroyed hundreds of buildings. And the Israeli defense minister, I think that's his name, he said, we're not going to leave there's going to be nothing left in Gaza. Can't live there. It's 2.5 million people, 2.4 million people. Half of them are children, and they're being driven out of Gaza Strip. Where do they go? The sea? The Sinai Desert? Where are they supposed to go? Gaza Strip is 20 miles wide and 5 miles long. Maybe it's 23 miles wide and 5 miles long. And Israel's telling everyone to get to the south. Where do they go? Grump. I mean, you can be mad. But I would argue that there's a lot of people suffering for the deeds of Hamas. And I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure out who was the judge, where the trial was, who was the jury, and who authorized this. I guess it's just collateral damage. If you want to live in Gaza Strip next to Hamas, Therefore, you are part of Hamas. But Grump, where do they move? They don't have a choice where to live. They can't live in Israel. They can't live in the Mediterranean Sea. There's a wall around them. The children in Gaza Strip were born there. They've never been anywhere else. So how can you paint the brush that they are complicit with Hamas? Oh, well, we got to destroy Hamas, so we got to destroy the civilians, I guess. Well, I don't know, Grump. I don't know. I don't want to judge it. I don't want to make you mad. And I personally don't want to. Obviously, this is what happened elsewhere years ago, and it's horrible. And it's happened over the centuries, and it's horrible. But when did the scales balance? And when do the concerns of children who have browner skin and speak Arabic rather than other languages, when did those children get a voice? Did those children choose to live next to Hamas? I don't know. I am not making that point. And if you want to be mad, you can be mad. The point I'm making, and if you want to bury your head in the sand, you can do that. If you want to listen to CNN, listen to CNN. Listen to CBS and ABC. The Washington Post is owned by the man who got a contract from the CIA. The New York Times owned by Carlos Fat, the world's most wealthy man. There's no journalism there anymore. The media is controlled by BlackRock and the rest who get the contracts to rebuild the countries that our military destroys. But that's not even my point. And I don't want to make you mad. And so when Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Angola, Nigeria, OPEC, Russia get together and they say stop, as they did in the UN a few weeks ago. The only country of size that voted against it was the United States. There were a bunch of countries, Micronesia and others. 96% of the world's population voted for a ceasefire. Well, UN representatives of 96% of the world's population voted for a ceasefire in Israel. 4% of the world's population voted against it. 4 to 5%. The United States of America. We can be mad. Oh, those horrible Palestinians. Hamas. Palestinians, they're dogs. They're less than human beings. They live in Gaza Strip with Hamas. And that land was never theirs. We can feel that way. We can feel that way. But it doesn't matter what we think. That's my point. Israel is surrounded on all fronts by populations who don't agree with you, Grump, me, or the United States, or Israel. Hezbollah right here could chop this part off. Hezbollah could chop this part off like that. They're not doing it because no one really wants to ratchet this up. I'm not saying it's going to happen. They're going to clear out Gaza Strip. That's a fact. The United States isn't going to do anything about it. And I don't know where 2 million, 2.5 million Palestinians are going to go. Israel, according to Netanyahu, not me, Netanyahu said it. He's actively seeking countries to place those Palestinians to transfer. A word that is laden with meaning from 60 years, 80 years ago, 60 years, 70 years ago. Netanyahu is in active negotiations to move this population out. Is that the right thing? I'm not going to comment. You're mad that I would even consider Palestine Hamas. Okay, I won't consider them. We're America, USA, Israel, USA. Got it. Got it. I won't say anything controversial. But if this part of the world decides either to ramp up the war, we can't fight them off. We could drop an atomic bomb. We're not going to do that. On oil, we need the oil. We're not going to stop Netanyahu, and Netanyahu's not going to stop. He's as corrupt as they come. And I think this has been his mission for a long time. Israel's from the river of Jordan to the sea. But that's not the point, Grump. The point is that all you need is Iran to decide to take aggressive action, Turkey to take aggressive action, Russia to take aggressive action, or they all do it together. Militarily, and the United States is in a whole lot of trouble. Now, I hope it doesn't get to that, because obviously we can't consider Palestine Hamas. So let's not consider them. We got to stick with Israel, the last democracy in the Middle East. And they didn't do October 7th. They didn't do October 7th. So they're getting, Palestine Hamas is getting what it deserves. And if they're children, tough luck. Tough luck. But the point is, other countries, I don't even think I think a lot of leaders would caution me the way you have in these countries. But if they decide to act against the United States, short of war, what's their weapon, Grump? I'll tell you what it is. It's oil. And what is most immediately tied to oil? Growth and the bond market and inflation. Israel's response to October 7th can, I'm not saying it will, can cause a reaction that is unpredictable right now. And if you want to be seriously mad at me, you can be. What I'm trying to tell you is that silver, that's how I got started on it, and MMT and oil, MMTLP, silver and oil are places to be invested in. The Middle East is entirely different than it was even 20 years ago. Russia is supplying sophisticated weaponry. Iran has sophisticated weaponry. Turkey itself has built weapons, and the world, and I don't know if it's the world's, but it's that area's largest army. And by definition, Egypt has a large army. So I don't know. You can be mad at me, but I refuse to bury my head and not look at the risks ahead. I'm trying to tell you, own oil and gas, own silver, own gold. When oil goes to $200, $300, $400 a barrel in an embargo, the bond market could collapse. The stock market could initially rally because of war, but then it could collapse. And I hope your first thought isn't to be mad at me that I would even consider Palestine Hamas. I think your first thought, what I wish on everyone here, is that you're grateful that you've taken some steps to isolate yourself from the harm which will come when gasoline is $30 a gallon, if you can even find it. ATMs are shut. Interest rates could be 20%. But I don't know. I'd rather listen to CNN. I'd rather listen to Rachel Maddow, who gets paid $35,000 an episode to lie out of her teeth. I'm just going to read something to you from this book. On page 58, what happened is, of course, now well known. By the summer of 1949, the Palestinian polity, oh no, there's no Palestinians. All right, let's just say the native population had been devastated and most of its society uprooted. Some 80% of the Arab population of the territory that at war's end became the new state of Israel had been forced from their homes and had lost their lands and property. At least 720,000 of the 1.3 million Palestinians were made refugees. Thanks to this violent transformation, Israel controlled 78% of the territory of former mandatory Palestine and now ruled over the 160,000 Palestinian Arabs who had been able to remain. Barely 1/5 of the pre-war Arab population. This seismic upheaval, Nakba, or the catastrophe, as Palestinians called it, grounded in the defeat of the Great Revolt of 1939, which was Palestinian revolt against the British, and willed by the Zionist state in waiting. This is Zionist by definition, not an application of a bad calling names, was also caused by factors that were on vivid display in the story my father told. Foreign interference and fierce and this is where it's not us, it's not Israel, fierce inter-Arab rivalries. These problems were compounded by the intractable Palestinian internal differences, which endured after the defeat of the revolt, and by the absence of modern Palestinian state institutions. The Nakba was only finally made possible, however, by massive global shifts during World War II. The outbreak of war in 1939 put an end to the wrangling over the British White Paper. That's a document they had written. Britain was a supporter of the creation of this state, and brought a relative lull after the upheavals of the revolt. Still, for 3 years, until the battles of Al Alamein and Stalingrad in the fall of 1942, the danger of Nazi panzers arriving from Libya or through the Caucasus was ever present. Jewish immigration slowed significantly as a result of the White Paper and wartime conditions, while Zionist leaders, enraged at what they perceived as Whitehall's British abandonment of its commitments to Zionism, shrewdly looked to engineer a diplomatic realignment away from Britain and toward new patrons. However, during this lull, the Zionists were able to continue to build up their military capabilities. Under pressure from the Zionist movement and with support of British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, a Jewish brigade group of the British Army was formed in 1944, providing the already considerable Zionist military forces with training and combat experience, offering a vital advantage in the conflict to come. By contrast, although a wartime boom in Palestine enabled some recovery from the damage caused to the Arab economy by the revolt, the Palestinians remain fragmented politically, with many of their leaders still in exile or in British detention, and failed to make sufficient preparations for the brewing storm. Over 12,000 Palestinian Arabs volunteered for the British Army during World War II, while many others, like my father, did work for the Allies. But unlike the Jewish soldiers from Palestine, they never constituted a single unit, and there was no Palestinian parastate to take advantage of the experience they had gained. The end of the World War brought a new phase of the colonial assault on Palestine. Sorry, that's the words here. 100 years, that's his words. The end of the war brought a new phase of the colonial assault on Palestine, launched by the arrival in the middle of the Middle East of two great powers that had previously played small regional roles, the United States and the USSR, an empire that had never fully acknowledged its colonial nature and whose domain had been restricted to the Americas and to the Pacific. After Pearl Harbor, the United States suddenly became not just a global power, but the preeminent one. Starting in 1942, American ships, troops, and bases arrived in North Africa, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. They have not left the Middle East since. Meanwhile, the United Soviet Socialist Republic, which had turned inward after the Bolshevik Revolution, spreading its ideology but avoiding projecting its strength, had the largest land army in the world as a result of the war. These two would liberate, well, the USSR would liberate half of Europe from the Nazis and become increasingly assertive in Iran, Turkey, and other areas to its south. Led by the dominant political figure in the Yishuv, David Ben-Gurion, the Zionist movement clearly foresaw the shift in global balance of power. The key event in this realignment was the proclamation in 1942 at a major Zionist conference held at the Biltmore Hotel in New York of what was called the Biltmore Program. For the first time, the Zionist movement openly called for turning all of Palestine into a Jewish state. The exact demand was that, quote, Palestine be established as a Jewish commonwealth, unquote. As with the national home, this was another circumlocution for full Jewish control over the entirety of Palestine, a country with a two-thirds Arab majority. It was no coincidence that this ambitious program was proclaimed in the United States and in New York in particular, then and now the city with the largest Jewish population in the world. I'm not commenting on that. Before long, the Zionist movement had mobilized many American politicians and much of public opinion around this objective. This was a result of this movement's unceasing and effective public relations efforts, which the Palestinians and the fledgling Arab states were unable to match, and of widespread horror at the revelation of the destruction of most of European Jewry by the Nazis in the Holocaust. I mean, the widespread horror. After President Harry Truman endorsed the goal of a Jewish state in a majority Arab land in the post-war years, Zionism, once a colonial project backed by the declining British Empire, became part and parcel of emerging American hegemony in the Middle East. Following the war, two crucial events occurred in quick succession, which were emblematic of the obstacles ahead for the Palestinians. Their relations with many of the Arab regimes were already fraught because of Arab rulers' alignment with Britain, going back to their intervention to end the 1936 general strike and their involvement in the failed 1939 St. James Palace Conference. Things grew worse in March 1945 when, under the aegis of Great Britain, 6 American states formed the Arab League. In his memoirs, Dr. Hussein describes the Palestinians' bitter disappointment that the member states decided to remove references to Palestine from the League's inaugural communique and to retain control over the choice of Palestine's representative. More far-reaching in its consequences was the formation of the Anglo-American Committee of Inquiry in 1946. This body was established by the British and US governments to consider the urgent and pitiful situation of Jewish Holocaust survivors. There can be no denial of that. 100,000 of whom were confined to displaced persons camps in Europe. The American and Zionist preference was for these unfortunates to be granted immediate entry to Palestine. Neither the United States nor the United Kingdom was willing to accept them. What he doesn't describe, at least not that I remember, is this Nakba Grump 55. I was invited about, well, I can tell you exactly the year. It would have been 1948. It would have been 1998 that I was invited to the Westminster Cathedral by Mazen Masri and my friend. And I had, like most Americans, I was living in London, but like most Americans, I had the whole Middle East was very complicated to me. I tried to study it, but man, it was tough. So I sat in one of the back pews because the church was full. And I think this was, I forget what day it was during the week. But I sat in the back, and elegant, intelligent, well-educated, professional, beautiful, handsome, poor, rich, young, old, really old Palestinians who of the diaspora who now lived in London and elsewhere got up and they talked to the full cathedral, each for about 15 minutes, and they told their story. Grump. They told about how Menachem Begin, who by his own admission, by Jimmy Carter's admission, was a terrorist. Jimmy Carter now believes that Menachem Begin was the hero of the Camp David Accords. So, like Saul on his road to Damascus, or I think St. Francis, I think it was St. Francis, who, I'm not sure about that, who wanted to stop sinning, but not right away, to put it politely. People change and they have conversions. But Menachem Begin led armies into Palestine, bulldozing, driving tanks through farms, homes, cities, and destroying olive groves and uprooting a population that the white paper and the British said didn't exist. You can be mad at me that I would seriously consider Palestine Hamas. But I wonder, I try to understand it, the Old Testament, and I guess God promised what Netanyahu sees. I guess God promised whatever Netanyahu has divided out in his mind to all Jews as a Jewish state. It's promised. But if I understand it correctly, that promise came 3,000 years ago. And I don't know. I'm not God. I'm not Jewish. I'm not a historian. But somebody's lived there since then. And I'm not saying that it's horrible. Look, I'm not anti-Israel. I'm not. I think Israel has a right to exist. But I just don't know, Grump 55, that the Palestinians don't have something that makes them mad. That's the problem with war. That's the problem with war. That's the problem with injustice. Unfortunately, generation after generation after generation, after Rome, after the Ottoman Empire, after the brief British control, of what is now called Palestinians, but generations of people put down their roots, including Arab Jews, Arab Christians, and Arab Muslims in Palestine. That was an inconvenient fact. It was not an empty country waiting for a people without a country. And it's still not. And I ask you to consider, Grumpy 55, how you would feel if you grew up, you were born in and grew up in a strip of land 23 miles wide, 5 miles long, with walls and security. And then when your wife maybe had to go visit her parents in Arizona, when she has to go to Tel Aviv for the airport, she has to go through checkpoint after checkpoint, maybe ride a donkey between them, and then get through the gates, and then be escorted and continued to be scrutinized until she gets on her flight. And then when she lands in Arizona, she's as free as anyone else, dressed well, beautiful, great home. But when she goes home, she has to go back behind that wall. I don't know, Grump 55. You can be mad at me. But I believe that I can't be quiet about the fact that there were people living in Israel before Menachem Begin and his army of terrorists. He blew up a hotel, killed 94 people before they came in. So that's just a fact. Would you be upset? I don't know. Probably not, because it would make you mad if you would even consider Palestine Hamas. It's a tough situation. I abhor I assume all the deaths, the 1,700 who were killed by Hamas on October 7th. If you listen to some Israeli reports, a majority of those killed were killed in a crossfire. I'm going to go with that the 1,700 were killed by Hamas. And if you believe our stories, babies were raped, women were raped, heads lopped off. I'll accept that. It's an atrocity. It's horrible. I pray about it. But Grump 55, 25,000 people, civilians, have been killed, half of whom, they only say 6,000, but half of the population in Gaza Strip are under the age of 15. 25,000 people killed. I guess it can't stop until they get everyone in Hamas. And the Palestinians were given a day to move. Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? How quickly could you move, Grump 55? Here's a flyer. We're going to start bombing your house in 24 hours. Move. You're in the United States. You could call a moving van. You could hit the highway. Where are those Palestinian citizens and children going to move? And you're mad that I consider Palestine? You know, a lot of this Grump 55, what's happened in my personal life over the last 2 or 3 years has, I think, been some sort of spiritual journey or something. I don't want to get you all bogged down in that. But one of the things I did, and I'm going to probably have to go again if I admit this to you, but one of the things I did is go into St. Matthew's and go to confession. And it had been so long since I had been at confession. I was basically confused what to do. And the priest was very kind. And he listened, guided me, and he didn't make me get all detailed. Asked me a few questions. And he said, for your penance, I want you to say one Hail Mary for each decade that you've been absent from the confessional. And he said, I want you to pray for world peace. So I'm not a young man, and I didn't go to confession on a lark. I went because I'm trying in my own imperfect way to be better in the eyes of God. And that's a complicated thing. But peace is what I heard. Peace. And to me, peace is not listening to CNN in the harried tones of, oh my God, and watching the same thing going on over and over again without examining what's really happening. I've listened to Alan Dershowitz at length. I've listened to Norman Finkelstein at length. I even listened to Bill Maher and his drivel. I've listened to retired U.S. Army, Navy, military. I've reviewed some parts of Jimmy Carter's book, Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid. I've tried to listen to Netanyahu. I can't. I think he's a lying. That's it. I'll just stop there. I think he's a liar. But I've also tried to listen to interviews of Israeli citizens, of Jews here and around the world. I've tried Grump 55 to educate myself. It's complicated. I've done it for years, but in the last 2 months, I've really tried to focus on it. Both sides all sides. And what I come down to, Grump, and I'm going to sign off after this, Grump. What I come down to is that priest asked me to pray for peace. And so my actions on these calls are a prayer. They're a prayer for change in our markets. They're a prayer for each of you to be financially secure. And what I talk about when it comes to oil, the financial market, the Middle East, and the United States' place in the world is my fervent prayer for peace. And where I think we all can agree, we can pray for peace for the children. The Israeli children, and we could even consider the Palestinian children. So I pray for peace. I pray for cooler heads. I pray for jaw, not war. And I pray for Americans, the United States of America, to consider the pain and the suffering of the Palestinian people as they consider the horrible pain and suffering of the Jewish people. Peace.